Hello, good morning. Live from Washington, D.C., this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious.
Well, breaking just a few minutes ago, President Trump escalates his war with the BBC, accusing the broadcaster of harassing his family after they tried to subpoena his children in the $10 billion Panorama defamation case. All that in just a tick. Also tonight,
far too many that have come don't work, have never worked, and never will work.
what do you make of this one? Reform UK has announced plans to ban foreign nationals from claiming almost all types of benefits if the party wins power. Just how much support does this policy have throughout the nation? Also,
you have two problems: immigration and energy, and crime too, by the way. Crime. But you have a crime problem.
well, he did warn us, I guess, and this is a shocking story that rocked me today when I read it. Tonight, GB News can reveal an Eritrean man who was convicted of raping a pensioner, a male pensioner, next to a North London church, entered Britain illegally. Of course he did. Will this horrific crime spur officials into decisive action? Also tonight,
we did first exclude those charged with rape, convicted of rape, serious sexual offences against children.
well, talking of sex offenders, Labour has announced that all rapists and serious child sex offenders will be fitted with GPS tags for at least a year following their release from prison. But should they ever be allowed out of prison in the first place?
This is the room where the bunk beds were, where my brothers and I slept. And it was like usually two.
Brand new footage unearthed of the King of Pop, Michael Jackson. GB News can exclusively reveal footage of MJ guiding filmmakers around his family home in Indiana and chatting to a young Beyonce. I'm Ben Leo and this is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning to you. Hope you've had a pleasant weekend. Welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me this evening in Washington is my panel. We have journalist and broadcaster Mark Albert and Chair of Republicans Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. And in London, former Labour MP Stephen Pound and GB News contributor, house husband's favourite, Paul Cox. Hello, you two. Thank you for your company. Paul, I know, so it's the most unoriginal intro for you of all time. And I always do it, but it still makes me chuckle, so that's all that matters. Right, we've got some breaking news to start the show this evening. A major development in President Trump's war with the BBC tonight as he accuses the broadcaster of trying to harass his family. It's the latest chapter in the saga of his $10 billion Panorama lawsuit after the BBC's lawyers asked a Florida court to force Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, to testify and give evidence in the case. A spokesman for Mr. Trump's legal team has told the Daily Telegraph tonight the BBC intentionally defamed President Donald J. Trump, and now the BBC is seeking to harass him, his family and supporters by abusing the deposition process. The BBC is simply trying to distract away from their own obvious liability. Well, it comes, of course, that in November, the Telegraph revealed that separate parts of Mr. Trump's speech on that fateful day, on January the 6th, have been spliced together for the Panorama documentary, making it appear as though he encouraged his supporters to storm the Capitol building after he lost the election. In fact, he said he wanted supporters to demonstrate peacefully. Let's get a word from my American panel here, first of all. Mark Albert, Greg Swenson. Good evening, chaps. This is breaking in the past couple of moments. We heard yesterday how the BBC was trying to subpoena Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka Trump and her husband, Jared Kushner, by literally going to their home in Florida and trying to whack them with court papers.
Right.
The Secret Service was saying, no chance, off you go, you're not having these papers anywhere near them. Now, Trump today, Greg, has said, you're harassing my family.
Yeah, I think it's backfired on the BBC. I mean, of course, people use the discovery process to try to find some, information that might embarrass the plaintiff and maybe dial it down a bit. But they've already admitted that they were wrong. They admitted that they did have committed the crime, so to speak, if you want to call it
But they
that.
deny they defamed him.
Right.
They've said, how can we defame you when you went and won the election?
Yeah, so they're arguing that there shouldn't be great liability. What they should have done, in my view, is just quietly settled. And that's really what the president always does with the networks. And so I think it's a big mistake by the BBC.
Yeah, I think if they had settled, it would have been something like $5 to $10 million potentially. But Mark, is it harassing, forget who it is, the president or Joe Bloggs, is it harassment when you just try and serve court papers?
So I actually covered the justice system for many, many years when I was a journalist, and discovery is going to open the closets and the skeletons, and they're going to be wide-ranging discovery. It doesn't surprise me in the least that these subpoenas were attempted to be served. I don't think they were successful in any of the subpoenas, right? Because in New York at Trump Tower, they wouldn't accept them either. I think the article said. Not a surprise that they're trying to do it. And when you're a plaintiff and you sue for defamation, you have to expect that there's going to be discovery, especially if there's not a settlement.
So what happens legally if the BBC literally, whoever's serving these papers on behalf of the BBC, if they just can't physically get the papers in Donald Trump Jr.'s hands, Jared Kushner's hands?
Yes,
Doesn't happen?
Well, you have a certain amount of time, and then there can be electronic service, but essentially you have to go through the motions of doing it the way that it's normally done first. So I suspect here that the BBC is going to ask for some accommodation.
OK. Do you think, Greg, that the Beeb will ever settle this case? Because the trial is set for February 27.
I think they will. I think they'd be crazy to go to court on it. So, because again, they've already admitted that what they accused them of actually happened, and it's quite clear. So if there was any argument that they didn't do it or that it was a simple mistake, okay, fine. But I think they'd be better off.
You think it's black and white? Do you think he was defamed, Mark?
So I'm not a lawyer. So what I would say is I don't think the BBC is going to settle. I'd be really surprised.
You think they'll go for it?
I'd be really surprised if they settle.
Well, what they'll do if they do that, if they go the full hog and they go to Miami in 2027 February, they'll be using, I suspect, either insurance money, they're covered with insurance, or worse, licence fee money from the great British public.
And I don't know how that works with the licence fee, but they're going to have to pay for it somehow.
Well, people paying that licence fee, let's ask the chaps in London, Stephen Pound, Paul Cox, if that's the case, and again, Paul, we don't know whether they are using licence fee money, they may be using insurance money. But if that is the case and they go the full hog to Miami and face Trump in court, is that a betrayal of the licence fee? If indeed they are using licence fee money, which we don't know if they are.
Well, we don't, but we can safely assume that up to the point they go to court that they are, because there isn't an insurance claim before court. So everybody, like the chaps wandering around trying to subpoena Donald Trump and his family, are on the one way or the other, directly or otherwise, on the payroll of the BBC, which means that unless they're being paid for by BBC International or whatever the limited company is that pays a lot of their highest earners, which makes money from advertising and selling its programmes into the international market, then the chances are a lot of that money is coming from the licence fee payer. So there is a fair assumption there to say that people in the UK are paying for these shenanigans. Whether people agree with that or not is a whole other debate. But what I would say is this seems incredible, doesn't it? The BBC, it feels like they're going at this quite aggressively. I agree with Mark. It feels like they're not just going to capitulate and agree on anything. They're going to go the full hog here, and they're going to pursue this quite aggressively at the moment. So they fancy their chances in some way. But this, I'm not sure that's such a shrewd move at all, Ben.
Ben, I don't think they've got any choice.
Taking a gamble, definitely.
Yeah.
Stephen?
Yeah, I really don't think the BBC have got any choice here. And by the way, it's good evening to you and the panel. Look, the reality is that we're not talking about millions here, we're talking about billions. And that's what Donald Trump's initial figure was. And what the BBC are trying to do with discovery, the first element of their discovery is to actually find out his financial position. Because Donald Trump said, I have suffered financially as a result of this. Now, it's perfectly legitimate under those circumstances, if Donald Trump is saying that he's actually suffered because of this, to find out, OK, let's see the details. Let's see about your money. Let's see about the earnings, and let's see what you've actually lost. The other thing is, of course, this case is being heard in Florida, and that's the idea that there's a huge number of people watching the BBC in Florida is something which I have to say comes as something of a shock to me. I'm not a great defender.
Well, can I explain the president's issue with that? So the lawyers have said in previous court documents that the Panorama documentary in question was played on iPlayer, and they say that many Floridians, Americans, can access iPlayer with VPNs. The documentary was also, what's the word, distributed to a North American production company, and it was shown in Canada as well as some other jurisdictions. And they also say the BBC went to Mar-a-Lago to film part of this documentary, and Trump's lawyers claim that by doing that, they are somehow bringing America as a jurisdiction into the documentary itself. That's their argument, anyway.
Is there any evidence whatsoever that is there any data on the traffic on the iPlayer, whatever it was? You know, how do we actually itemise or actually identify that traffic? Because I don't see how they can do it. But the overall point is, would the BBC actually cough up now with your money and my money and Paul's money, or will they actually carry on? My opinion is that they simply cannot afford to capitulate at this stage. Don't forget, Donald Trump has got a good track record. He's sued 3 of the major news outlets in the United States, and he's got a huge amount of money from them. However, each one of those news outlets is actually partially dependent upon the goodwill of the presidency and the White House. So I think those particular ones had a real interest in settling. The BBC doesn't have that interest. However, your key point is, if they do go for broke, do you think any single member of the BBC staff will actually be out of pocket? I rather doubt it.
Yeah, some interesting comments coming in on your say. Original Cowgirl, good morning to you. You've said it's no surprise the BBC are stupid bringing his family into it. Everyone knows he's fiercely protective of his family. Of course he isn't going to react well. The BBC are screwed. Robert has said the BBC lied and conned the British public with this deception, and all the people involved need to be sacked and lose their work pension. That's a bit harsh. I mean, what about the people working in Radio 2 or CBBC who had nothing to do with that Panorama documentary? But Neil, Yorkshire lad, hello Neil, good morning. You make a good point, probably true as well. You've said wrong, the BBC licence fee payers won't be paying for this. The insurers will have been running this case from day one. That's how professional indemnity insurance works. However, the BBC will have to pay in excess and the insurance will be capped, which I guess, to your point, Stephen, is the gamble the BBC are taking. They could settle this now, maybe for $5–10 million, or lose in trial in Miami next year and be forced to pay, who knows, $2–3 billion? Maybe
is there any evidence that Donald Trump... Would Donald Trump settle for that? There's no evidence that he would. If you remember, when he first started talking about this case,
he would. He
was talking about billions. Do you honestly think he's going to dial down and actually settle for a lower limit? That's not the way the man works.
He just wants to win. I don't think he cares about the money. I think he just wants to win in court. I mean, Greg, you agree with that? Just very quickly.
Totally, and that's why he's settled for relatively small sums with the other networks here in the U.S. So, you know, again, if the BBC offered £5 or £10 million, I think he'd probably take it. He just wants to chalk it up. And again, they've already admitted that there was some wrongdoing.
Yeah. I think he'd probably take a couple of million. Right. On the issue of the BBC splicing a clip of President Trump, the broadcaster has said in a statement it sincerely regrets the manner in which the video clip was edited, but they did add that they strongly disagree there's a basis for a defamation claim in this case. Very good. GBNews.com/your say. Keep those comments coming in. For now, still ahead on The Late Show Live.
Far too many that have come don't work, have never worked, and never will work.
Reform UK has announced plans to ban foreign nationals from claiming almost all types of benefits if the party wins power. I mean, I think this is fairly sensible. Other countries do it. Just how much support, though, would this have all across the country? This is The Late Show Live. Back in just a tick.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Very quick correction. Robert, on your say, gave a comment. It was a great comment, and I thought it said that all BBC workers from any department should be sanctioned and lose their pensions. He's quite rightly picked me up and said, no, Ben, I meant all those involved in the deception of the Trump BBC case. So, Robert, happy to correct that. Sorry about that. That's what happens when I collate comments on the hoof. Right, let's move on. Breaking in the last few hours, Reform UK has announced plans to ban foreign nationals from claiming almost all types of benefits if the party wins power. The proposal forms part of a wider effort to cut more than £50 billion a year from the welfare bill. Yes, 50 billion, whopping number, with the party claiming the foreign national ban would save around £21 billion alone over 5 years. The ban will cover the European Union nationals with settled status in the UK, forcing a full renegotiation of the UK's Brexit deal with Brussels and putting the rights of British expats in the EU at risk. Well, what have Labour said? A spokesman has hit out at the scheme, saying these plans would mean ripping up the UK's withdrawal agreement with the EU, plunging the UK back into years of Brexit negotiations and stripping support from potentially millions of people who have lawfully lived, worked and paid taxes in Britain for years and, in many cases, decades. Let's dissect this now with senior analyst and head of campaigns at Onward UK, Joanna Marchong. Joanna, good to see you. Thank you for staying up with the Late Show Live. It sounds good, the headline, Reform UK, 50 billion quid a year saved from foreign nationals being stripped of their benefits. How realistic is it, though, Joanna?
I think that's what everyone's asking, right? I think out of the 21 billion that they want to save, 13 billion so the majority share is coming from universal credit payments. Talking about who claims that, 84.5% are in the UK, Ireland and right to vote category. So those are supposedly, people we don't necessarily want to touch, but 9% come from the EU. And a lot of them are actually in employment. So about 57%, so 60% of them are in work and they use universal credit to top up their lower wages. I think that's what we have to get our head around. It's not necessarily these people are benefit scroungers. It's not everyone on welfare who is a foreign national are people that are taking advantage of the system. A lot of them have worked here for a very long time, lived here for years. And one thing that's radical about Reform and their proposal, which is very good, we all want to see welfare cuts, but they're talking about potentially uprooting and disrupting the lives of working people that have contributed in taxes, have lived here, have settled here for over 5 years, without so much as a kind of contingency plan for them, or we're treating them with the harshest sentence.
I just wonder, though, I mean, maybe you don't know the answer, but, I mean, are Brits allowed to go to, say, Spain, for example, and claim benefits and credit, working credit, if they're working as well? How does it work with Brits abroad?
Well, A lot of Brits abroad, so a lot of EU countries have their own different systems, which is a lot less lenient than the UK. So we're right to say, actually, we shouldn't have a more lenient system where people can take advantage or can have an easier ride, but we should go back on it. I think the devil is in the detail here, where we're looking at, again, what you said earlier, we're entering negotiations with the EU again. They have never really been favourable to us. Reform has, to their credit, put a contingency plan of about £500 million for it. That's if about 10% of those abroad come back to the UK because, say, they were the ones getting that additional help abroad, come back to the UK and then have to go onto the benefit system. I think when you're looking at the wider costs, so, for example, the plan in itself is after the Dutch model. The Dutch have had a very hard time with their model. They've had to put up with about £450 million of subsidies, and also 200 million of that came from the government purse directly. Another 200 came from businesses, so it's employers paying it now to taxpayers. It's a whole system that I hope we get our heads around, because it's not as easy. It's about 0.04% of Dutch GDP that have gone towards this policy.
Yeah.
And for us, that would look like about £500 billion.
OK, interesting. I guess it's something Reform will probably have to look at and work on in a bit more detail if and when they get into government. We're a long way out, so I guess for now it's an easy thing to kind of shout about on the sidelines. Sounds good, though. Joanna, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Joanna Marchong, Senior Analyst and Head of Campaigns at Onward UK. Thanks, Joanna. Let's get the thoughts of my panel, including the chaps in London. Let's start with you, Paul and Stephen. Paul, what I would support, definitely by default, is foreign nationals who aren't working claiming benefits. I mean, that goes without saying. Why should foreign nationals in the UK be sponging off the state?
Well, quite. I mean, to answer your question earlier, you can claim benefits in Spain as a British civilian if you've become a legal civilian of Spain and have worked and contributed for over a year. I don't know how that compares to the other way around, but it's very rare, isn't it? Let's face it, that's not really what we're discussing here. What we're discussing here is, Sudanese, Eritrean men coming here, living in camps under motorway bridges or bridges in London somewhere, maybe working for Deliveroo and also trying to claim at some point in the future as well, or citizens that have managed to get legal citizenship here but have barely worked and are claiming. So, Ben, I think there'll be a lot of sympathy for that Farage reform policy, because it's the sort of thing we've been complaining about forever. I said on the previous show we've got a bill of £33 billion for our welfare, with a tax income tax receipts of £330 billion. There's a £3 billion deficit between the two. It's extraordinary, and that's only going to climb over the coming years. So we have to do something.
Well, I think the welfare bill is nearing 100 billion a year. I suppose it depends what you include, but I think in the maybe 10 years to come, it's pretty much 100 billion a year. Stephen, do you know what the figure is?
Well, no, but it's just under that, because if you include pensions, which is the biggest component of that, then you're talking about over 90 billion. And so I don't think anybody's actually talking about stripping away the pensions from poor old pensioners like me. But look, here's the thing: it's always a lot easier in life to actually find a scapegoat than it is to find a solution. And I think all of us accept the fact that the bloated welfare bill has to be in some way diminished. I think most sensible, rational people would suggest that. But I would also say most sensible and rational people would say, you can't do this retrospectively. We can possibly say from now on this will happen, but you cannot, in all honesty, because you can't really say it's not actually fair and reasonable for us to say to somebody who's been here for 5 years, completely legally, paying tax, just paying their way, to suddenly say your kids can't go to school.
I don't think it's fair and reasonable for a foreigner to come to the UK, not work, and then sponge off the state. I don't think that's fair and reasonable.
Hang on a second. We don't know that they're sponging off the state. We're talking. Am I sponging off the state because I'm a pensioner?
Benefits are not working, they're sponging.
Well, we don't know this. We're talking about, I mean, Paul was talking about the Deliveroo
people. Well, no, they are.
Stephen,
sorry to keep interrupting you. Sorry to keep it interrupted, but let's clarify this point. If they're in the UK and they're a foreign national and they're not working and they're not contributing to society economically, but yet they are claiming benefits from people who can be asked to get up and go to work, they are sponging off the state. Let's agree on that.
Hang on a second. If they're in this country legally, and they're not working, then that's an entirely different matter. Then the ordinary sanctions should apply. But most of these people we're talking about are here who have not got settled status, who do not have recourse to public funds, who do not receive benefits and receive the most minimal accommodation while their cases are being pursued. What I would say, and I hope that you and I would agree on this, is that the quickest way, the solution to this is choke the problem off at source, and when people come here, they actually get processed and deported if necessary, or given the right to come in here and pay tax. Now, the reality is, should we say retrospectively that whatever you've done, if you've played by the rules no longer apply? That's not the British way.
Well, I don't think the British way has been working that well, actually, over the past couple of decades. And I will just say,
so
I don't care if you're here legally. I don't care if you're here legally and you've done all the paperwork, and I don't care if you're a foreign national and you've come to the UK and you've not contributed and you're sponging off the state with welfare, all while hard-working Brits get up at the early hours, go to work, they graft for between 8 and 12 hours a day, struggle to feed their kids and pay their bills, while you're claiming benefits. I don't care. I don't care if it's un-British or not. I mean, that's a nonsense argument anyway. You should not be having benefits, and if you don't like it, they should just be sent home. If you don't like it, go back to your own country. Greg, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, it's got to be. You have to consider the pull factor, as Hillary always points out. You know that the incentive is to move from any other country in Europe, move to the UK because the benefits are more generous and the rules are less stringent. So that's got to be one issue. And for them to complain, for Labour to complain about, oh, what does this do to the Brexit process? This is an opportunity to exercise sovereignty, because the UK and Europe combined, I've mentioned it before, 25% of the world's GDP, yet 60% of welfare spending. This is an opportunity for the UK to stop the insanity that the EU is really trapped in. So, you know, it's an opportunity. If there's exceptions for people who have actually worked and they need a little extra push, okay, let's make that exception. But generally speaking, anybody who's here in the UK without working should be deported.
I mean, I'm mainly talking about those who bring their dependents over, who don't lift a finger, don't work, they've been here for a year or two, have never worked, and then go and claim benefits. I mean, absolutely not. Mark, do you know, what's the situation in the UK? Do you get, in the USA, do you have welfare for foreigners?
So there's a caveat. Let's look at Springfield, Ohio, where there's a lot of talk about the Haitians that have
eating the dogs and the cats.
The dog eaters.
Exactly, there was no evidence for that. But now the Trump administration has ended temporary protected status. You just had Ohio's Governor Mike DeWine write in the New York Times 2 days ago, quote, in Springfield, Ohio, Haitian nationals have played a major role in the city's economic comeback. They fill jobs, etc. So there are circumstances where nationals can come to the U.S. legally, and they can qualify for some benefits with the handshake agreement that they will contribute to the local economy, pay taxes, and all this stuff. And just one final point, Paul mentioned Spain. I just got back from Spain last night. I was there for the eclipse on Wednesday, which was amazing. If you've never seen an eclipse.
Is that why you went? Sorry to hijack it. Is that why you went for the eclipse?
13 months ago, I put on my calendar, August 12th, I will be in Valencia, Spain for the eclipse. That was on the Arc of Totality.
Well, let's talk about that. Finish your point, then I'll quiz you on that.
And people were actually talking to me about the generous Spain benefits. Like, hey, did you know? And it came up spontaneously. So this is a conversation happening throughout Europe.
Got it. What was the eclipse like? Good?
Amazing. If you've never seen a total solar eclipse, it is otherworldly. It is magical. We saw it. It's right before sunset. Everything goes dark. The cicadas, the birds, everybody goes quiet. Wow. The temperature drops at least, I don't know, what would it be, Celsius, 5, 6, 7 degrees Celsius. It is unbelievable. And then in totality, look at this glowing, shimmering orb in the sky. It is unbelievable.
You sound like you work in television with your communication skills, your oratory, your beautiful descriptions. Did you wear those funny glasses?
I did. That's how you saw it. And I'll see everyone August 2nd. Of 2027 in Luxor, Egypt.
Is there another one?
That's the next one.
Oh, I missed the Spain-UK one, so I'll be there for that. Right, let's move on. Still ahead tonight on The Late Show Live.
You have two problems, immigration and energy. And crime, too, by the way. Crime. But you have a crime problem.
Well, Trump did try and warn us. Tonight, GBNews can reveal an Eritrean man who was convicted of raping an elderly male pensioner next to a North London church. Yeah, it's unbelievable. The details coming shortly. Well, any guesses how he got to Britain? Illegally is the answer. Will this horrific crime spur officials, our government, our leaders, our politicians into decisive action? I doubt it, but we'll be discussing that after the break.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB loyalty points are here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB loyalty points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Self-taught, one of the most disgusting stories that I've laid my eyes upon in the past, I don't know, year or two. Tonight, GB News can reveal exclusively that an Eritrean man who was convicted of raping a male pensioner next to a North London church entered Britain illegally. Of course he did. His name was Brooke Desalegn. He's 33. He was found guilty by a jury at Harrow Crown Court after they viewed CCTV footage capturing the depraved attack, which lasted approximately 20 minutes. The assault took place on a grass verge outside a church, of all places, where the Eritrean man dragged an elderly victim, he was an OAP, behind a hoarding in an effort to hide what he was doing. Just for context, the man was drunk. We don't know the full details of what he'd been doing that night, but he was drunk, he was incapacitated on a bench and couldn't defend himself. GB News can also reveal that Desalegn arrived in the UK as a clandestine entrant. He claimed asylum and then was granted indefinite leave to remain in 2022. It's a horrific story. He was caught because, well, first of all, he tried to say that he was helping the man, and it was only when police, in their interview with him, said, actually, mate, we've got you on CCTV, we've got you on cameras from a bus that was driving by, and a horrified neighbour also filmed it on her phone as well. So he was completely banged to rights. And let me just remind you of the context of this story. It was a drunk elderly male pensioner. He was drunk on a bench incapacitated, couldn't defend himself, and this absolute monster, this degenerate specimen, dragged him off the bench behind some bushes in a church, again a church of all places, and raped him for 20 minutes. With me now is my panel, journalist and broadcaster Mark Albert, and Chair of Republican Overseas UK Greg Swenson, and in London the former Labour MP Stephen Pound and GBNews superstar Paul Cox. Thank you guys. Paul, I'll start with you. It's just any rape is sickening, any rape is horrific, but you don't often hear of an elderly male pensioner being raped by one of these people.
No, I was shocked when I read the story in preparation for the show, and I was equally as shocked when I listened to you retell the story to our audience. It's disgusting. There won't be anybody watching this, no matter of their political bent, that will not be horrified by this. And it's the type of cultural crime that we've imported. There's no two ways to discuss or describe this. This is very unlikely to happen culturally in the UK, and we've imported this, and this is what people are very, very upset about. Now, if you're on one side of this, you go, this is absolutely abhorrent, we need to do something to stop it. The other side will probably tell you this is a small statistic, it's unlikely to happen. My argument back to that will be, I don't care, one is more than enough. We have to do absolutely everything to stop importing this type of crime.
Stephen Pound, your thoughts on this?
Can I first of all say I entirely share your utter disgust, and I thought you expressed it very, very strongly, and I very much sympathise with your words. I also hope that the victim in this case is receiving some support, because the psychological impact, let alone the physical impact, without going into details, the damage that could well have been done to this poor man is almost beyond description. So something must be done is the easiest thing to say, and I think the question is, what do we do about it? And already, thank God, we're actually reducing the flow of illegal immigrants to this country. We're reducing the flow of people across the channel. 43% reduction already. We know we're actually doing something about it. Can we do more? Of course we can do more. But what I can't understand, honestly, is what is our connection with Eritrea? I mean, I can't remember at any stage, and I've lived long enough, that we've actually been a colonial force in Eritrea, or is there any reason why anybody from Eritrea, apart from the fact that the country is politically a complete basket case, and if you're 17 years old, you get drafted into the army, possibly for life. We don't know about that. But
well,
why are they
that is why they come here.
Yeah,
they have, the UK has an obscene... why to us? Because we're the land of milk and honey, and they're allowed to roam the streets freely and do what they want, and they get bus passes and spending money on cards and internet and all sorts. That's why they come to us.
You get more benefits in France and Germany. To come here from Eritrea, presumably to come to other countries in Europe with higher benefit rates than us. What is it about us? Are we such a magnet? And I take your point that there's a perception. All I would say is that that's something finally we're getting a grip on, and the French police are realising that until they stop it at their border, the people keep flooding in, and it is now they have these huge migrant camps in Paris and Lille and Rouen, Marseille. So thank the Lord, the French are finally getting a grip on it, and hopefully, please, A, we have no more of these cases, and B, that the victim in this case receives the support that he utterly deserves.
Can I just add something quickly?
Thing is, Greg, go on,
sorry,
Paul.
Ben, I just want to add a statistic which I think will help. The reported numbers are down by 43% into the UK. What's not reported is that numbers into France and into Europe are also down. The difference between the two is about 3%. The numbers down into the UK are down by about 3%. The flow and demand is down. What's getting across is down, but not by 43%. It is 43% year on year, but the number of people that can come in and make that journey is also down.
Yeah, and also they're still coming on in their thousands. There's 14-odd thousand this year so far, a couple of thousand since Burnham took power. It's like saying, oh, inflation spiked to 10% during COVID or whatever it was in the United States, but now it's only at 3% or 4%. It's still far too high. It doesn't matter. You're cooking words. You're playing on words saying, yeah, but they're down on last year. There's still thousands more of these people. And let me tell you, the Telegraph reported last year, Afghans and Eritreans, according to Ministry of Justice data, were up to 20 more times, Afghans and Eritreans, to commit sexual offences than British people. Now, that's been disputed a couple of times over recent months. They say maybe it's only 10 times more or 5 times more. Regardless, these people from these certain countries are more prone, because of cultural issues, to commit sexual offences than Brits. And these are the kind of people, Stephen, that Labour are allowing to freely walk around the streets. If you have to let these people in the country because you're so incompetent and inane and helpless at guarding your own border, which is your only job as a government, then at the very least, Greg Swenson, they should be detained until their applications are processed. It's a betrayal of the country, of the British people.
Yeah, without a doubt. Look, it happened here in the United States, and we've fixed the problem. It's not perfect, but we've fixed the problem. Whereas in the UK, they have not done that yet, and it's a shame. But here in America, most people, or at least people who follow the news, will know the names Laken Riley and Sheridan Gorman. Laken Riley was killed at the University of Georgia by an illegal migrant. Sheridan Gorman killed at Loyola University in Chicago by an illegal migrant. These things are not going away just because we stop the border. We have to detain and deport people as well.
Yeah. Mark, any thoughts on this? I mean, it's just a horrific story. It's grim.
Well, I extend my condolences, of course, to the victim here as well. Horrific. And I would follow up on your point. Here in the U.S., there has been a lot of debate about crimes committed by those either here in the U.S. illegally, here legally, and versus native-born Americans. And all the data shows that native-born Americans commit crimes far more than legal or...
What, per capita?
Yes. So, for example, violent crimes, native-born citizens twice as much, drug offences 2.5 times as much, property crimes 4 times as much.
But is that amount of crimes, the volume of crimes, or per capita?
Per capita.
So Americans commit more crime than illegal migrants?
Native-born Americans.
I just don't believe it. Where's that data from?
Here, I'll pull. This is from the Cato Institute.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I mean, it's the opposite in the UK. As I just said, MOJ data for sexual offences, Afghans, Eritreans, everybody from those areas, they commit more sexual crimes than native Brits. I mean, you don't need the data even to know that that's true. We know what they're like.
Yeah, going back to the rape gangs, I mean, it doesn't take a lot of scientific data to understand the cultural differences. So.
Yeah. Anyway, grim story. The latest in the litany, both sides of the pond, United States of America, United Kingdom. How many rapes? Rhiannon Sky White came into my mind this morning. The poor woman who worked at the Asylum Hotel, stabbed to death 20-odd times with a screwdriver by that Sudanese monster. I thought of her. I don't know why she popped into my head. I thought of her small boy who's now growing up without a mother. That poor little kid. And I prayed for that boy. And then an hour later, I saw this story. I just thought, goodness me. Anyway, let's move on. A Home Office spokesman has said, our thoughts are with the victim of this deeply disturbing crime and all those who have been affected by it. We commend their bravery in coming forward and reporting this individual. The perpetrator has now been rightly convicted. After sentencing, we'll do everything in our power to remove him, and he'll be denied all refugee protections. And I believe he's being sentenced in the autumn. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
We did first exclude those charged with rape, convicted of rape, serious sexual offences against children.
Well, slightly on theme, Labour has announced that all rapists and serious child sex offenders will be fitted with GPS tags for at least a year following their release from prison. Just 12 months. Does it need to be longer? And arguably, for some of those criminals, I say paedophiles, should they ever be allowed out of prison in the first place? Back in just a tick on The Late Show Live. Don't go anywhere.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. The government has announced that all rapists and child sex offenders, or serious child sex offenders, I mean, to me, it's silly wording, really. All child sex offenders are serious. Anyway, they'll all be fitted with GPS tags for at least a year following their release from prison. Under the plans, probation officers will monitor offenders 24 hours a day, with anyone breaching their conditions facing an immediate return to jail. The announcement comes after the Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, vowed to block the early release of PC Andrew Harper's killers after already moving to exclude around 1,000 rapists and child groomers from emergency early release schemes. So is the policy a welcome move, or should these type of offenders ever really be let out in the first place? Let's speak to David Shipley, journalist and writer, about this. David, I guess a year on a tag, fine. I would argue for child rapists and paedophiles, they should never be let out. And in actual fact, I think we should bring back capital punishment for those types of people. But anyway, what's your thoughts?
I mean, yes, I agree with you. But I think, unfortunately, we're not in a place where we're going to get the noose back for those sorts of sex offenders anytime soon. So in the meantime, we've got to do what we can. I think what the government's pitching sounds very high tech. You might imagine, there's a sort of big monitoring station where there's lights flashing on screens and we can see where these sex offenders are. It's not going to be like that at all. They're talking about near real time, which means that the probation officer will be told sometime after the sex offender's been in a particular place, they've been there. And the other really big problem is the tagging system already isn't working and the probation service isn't working. So the tagging system that the office, the National Audit Office did a big report last month about this. Literally, they don't even know how many people should be tagged who aren't. So the idea they're going to be able to cope with this huge influx of new people to monitor is nonsense. And probation are now calling strike action ballots because they're basically saying the system isn't safe. They don't have enough staff to supervise the people who've already been released.
Right.
And the probation union actually said last week that women are going to be killed because of this early release scheme. So it's one of these high-tech ideas, but the infrastructure just isn't there, and I don't think it's going to make it any safer.
So we haven't got enough prisons, so they're being let out to free up prison space. Probation isn't working because I guess there's not enough probation officers and no resources, so they're striking. Why does nothing work, David?
I mean, I think partly this is the Tories' fault. The Tories did fail to get a grip of this system in their 14 years in power, and they did a lot of damage to it. But actually, Labour have had 2 years, and the idea with the early releases was only ever to buy some time. And in those 2 years, they haven't built any more prison places, or hardly any more. They've let probation stay flat or go backwards. The tagging system is still broken. They are failing on the fundamentals of fixing these different bits of the state, and really they just need to grapple with this. There needs to be primary legislation to force the building of new prisons, overruling planning laws, just get them done, because we can't be in a situation where we're releasing people that we know pose a risk. When the probation union is saying women are going to be killed, and we're doing that just because we don't have enough prison spaces, that's not acceptable.
Yeah, David, thank you so much. It is unacceptable. And I just wonder why. Do you remember during COVID, we erected, was it 5 or 6 Nightingale hospitals very quickly, which ended up not being used at all, actually. I think there was about 2 patients in just one of them. Why can't we do that with prisons of some sort? So, yeah, anyway. David, thank you very much. David Shipley, journalist and writer. Let's pose that question to Stephen Pound in London alongside Paul Cox. Stephen, why do we need a bricks and mortar prison to be built? I mean, ideally, of course, their first choice, but in the absence of any quick planning laws or fast-track process where we can get that done, why can't we just erect some Nightingale-style prisons and keep all the pedos and, yeah, I'll leave it at that, keep all the wrong-uns in those prisons?
Well, because they could only be used for sort of Category C prisons, because, quite frankly, you know, if you built a temporary prison, it would not be a secure one. But look, there's a couple of things. I spent quite a bit of time in Dartmoor Prison as a prison officer, admittedly as part of an investigation. And they had a thing there called the VPU, the Vulnerable Prisoner Unit, which was mostly consist of people who were paedophiles and child sex offenders. And one of the things that I learned from the governor there was that paedophilia is not curable. It actually gets worse, and even if the person is castrated, they still have this urge because it's about power. And yet, this is the terrifying thing, that these people that we're talking about are not anything to do with the early release system. These are people who are reaching the end of their sentence. A sentence, even though they're convicted of child sex offence or paedophilia, has been passed by a judge, and in many cases by a judge and a jury. So you have the parole board system in this country. If a person is sentenced to a very long period of prison, they can then apply to the parole board, and the parole board has to make the decision. I find it incomprehensible, and as I suspect, Ben, you do as well, how anybody convicted of these totally, almost indescribably heinous crimes could ever satisfy the parole board's requirement.
Would you support killing them then, Stephen?
No, I think, no, I don't believe in doing that. I think that they should
What do we do with them then? They can't be cured. They're child rapists, child groomers, demons from the depths of hell. How do we deal with them?
We put them where the sunshine comes with stripes. We put them behind bars for our protection as a country and our children's protection. They simply cannot do it. But why do the judges only give them the short sentences? Why does the parole board release them? These are the questions we need to ask. The only thing is, what was the actual nature? Because you and I are using the words paedophilia and child sex offence. We don't know these particular details. All I can say is that, for me, it absolutely sticks in my throat that they should be released, ever.
Yeah, well said, Stephen. Paul, last word to you on this. We'll just stick with the UK for this question. Last word to you.
Yeah, look, I'm glad Stephen shares the same point of view as I do on this. That it's unimaginable to us all on this panel how they can arrive to this position in their lives, but they do not deserve a place in decent society at all.
And we're both parents, so I think we speak from...
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think they should all be put in some sort of Squid Game style room somewhere and just left to fend for themselves. Mark, you have something to say?
So in Minnesota, I used to report in Minneapolis, and there was a huge controversy over a civil commitment program they have in Minnesota. So when a sex offender's sentence is up, Minnesota still keeps them confined, and the U.S. Supreme Court declined to overturn this. And so that is the program in Minnesota. There are sex offenders who, after their sentence is up, they stay confined in a civil commitment program for treatment.
Wow. How long for? What, permanently?
Indefinitely, until they are ruled to be cured.
Well, it sounds like a lot more organised and resourced than things currently are in the UK. Like, we can't really do much at the moment. I'm not sure what's gone wrong, but we can't seem to do anything. So that's sort of the main problem. Greg, any comments on this before I say goodnight? Goodbye for this hour.
I'm with you, Ben. They shouldn't get out of jail in the first place, and if they do, keep those monitors on them indefinitely, not for 1 year.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff. gbnews.com/your say. Get your thoughts in on that. Let's see what comments we've got very quickly. Lots of people. I don't know what's going on with your say. There's some bot bots or repeats where comments are being repeated. Joe has said, what's the tag going to achieve? If they were bothered about jail, they wouldn't have done the crime the first time round. Glynis, hello Glynis, hope you're well. You've said a National Audit Office report revealed that thousands of offenders in England and Wales who should wear electronic GPS monitoring tags remain unmonitored due to systemic delays, fitting backlogs and contractor gaps. Right, more coming up in the next hour, including this.
This is the room where the bunk beds were, where my brothers and I slept. And it was like usually two.
Shock new footage of the King of Pop. GB News can exclusively reveal footage of Michael Jackson guiding filmmakers around his family home in Indiana and chatting to a young Beyonce. Are you an MJ fan? Do you think he's a predator? We'll discuss that, all that, and more after the break. See you in a sec.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Certainly a more changeable week of weather on the way out there this week. It's quite wet in some northern areas today. Southern areas will hold on to some sunshine for at least a while, but it will be turning more humid for all of us. So out there this morning, a few showers in the south and the southwest of England in particular. But for many parts of England and Wales and northeast Scotland, it will be a largely dry day. The best of the sunshine by this afternoon probably for parts of Wales, central, southern and southwestern parts of the UK. Turning quite wet though for Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The odd heavier burst of rain pushing in here through the afternoon. Quite a humid feel wherever you are out there this afternoon, and highs in the south 26 to 28 degrees Celsius, so another very warm day, particularly in the sunnier areas. Now out across northeastern parts of Scotland, it will be a lot fresher here, quite a cool feeling day with temperatures a little bit below average for August, but actually there'll be plenty of sunny spells out there on Monday afternoon for Shetland and Orkney. Turning increasingly wet though for western Scotland, the central belt, as we head towards the rush hour. And for Northern Ireland, some heavy bursts of rain pushing in here as well, particularly through this evening. Mostly dry at this point across Wales and southern parts of England, so plenty of evening sunshine here. Just a small chance of a shower for southeastern England for a time. Now through the course of tonight, the rain spreads its way northeastwards across Scotland and also southwards across England. So quite a wet night to come for many parts of the UK. The rain in the south quite showery, but several millimetres of rain possible in a few spots. So some welcome rain for the gardeners and the farmers. Look at these temperatures though, 15 to 18 degrees Celsius overnight, so quite a warm and humid start to Tuesday. A bit of uncertainty as to how quickly the rain clears away from southern England on Tuesday morning. It might just hang back a little bit longer than the graphics suggest at this stage. Northeastern Scotland will also stay fairly wet, particularly Shetland and Orkney. Otherwise, a mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers for northwestern areas, and mostly dry with hazy sunshine for parts of England and Wales. Not as warm as today, but still temperatures above average in the south, a cooler, more blustery feel in the north.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me. What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans? Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Live from Washington, this is GB News with the story shaping Britain and America.
I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious.
President Trump escalates his war with the BBC, accusing the broadcaster of harassing his family after they tried to subpoena his children in the $10 billion Panorama defamation case. More details on that in just a sec. Also tonight,
far too many that have come don't work, have never worked, and never will work.
Reform UK has announced plans to ban foreign nationals from claiming almost all types of benefits if the party wins power. Just how much support, though, do you reckon the policy would have all throughout the country? Also tonight,
this is the room where the bunk beds were, where my brothers and I slept. And it was like usually two.
Shocking new footage of the King of Pop never seen before. GB News can exclusively reveal footage of Michael Jackson guiding filmmakers around his family home in Indiana, chatting, including to a young Beyonce. Also tonight,
Net zero by 2050 is impossible. It is making families poorer, energy bills more expensive.
a major decision looms over the future of drilling in the North Sea, with the Scottish Conservatives warning that blocking the Jackdaw and Rosebank oil and gas fields is a matter of life and death. Do you agree? Also tonight. 30 years after the drive-by shooting that took the life of rap icon Tupac Shakur, a jury of 6 men and 10 women has now finally, after all these decades, been selected to hear the evidence against the man accused of orchestrating the slaying. Will his family finally get answers nearly 3 decades on? I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Well, it seems like I'm the only Tupac Shakur fan here. Maybe they're all Biggie Smalls fans, but we'll get to that in just a couple of minutes. Thank you for joining me on The Late Show Live. My panel this evening in Washington consists of no Tupac fans, including Mark Albert and Greg Swenson. In London, we have Stephen Pound and Paul Cox. Either of you Tupac fans? Do you know who he is? Stephen and Paul?
I'm more of a Ghostface Killer and the Wu-Tang Clan fan myself. I still like NWA, obviously.
Stephen.
There isn't anything Stephen Pound doesn't know. of Biggie and Tupac, I was more of a big fan, Ben, I have to say.
Yeah, well, let's get into that in just a second. Well, it's going to be quite a music-ridden hour because a showbiz exclusive here on GB News. Previously unseen footage of Michael Jackson, the King of Pop, has revealed a unique glimpse into his private life. So this exclusive footage, never seen before, was filmed between 2000 and 2003 by Jackson's close friend and producer Mark Schaffel, who at the time was filming a 3-part reality series with the singer. Schaffel's Fly on the Wall series was scrapped when Jackson's Neverland Ranch was raided in November 2003, which of course led to his arrest on child molestation charges. However, Jackson of course was acquitted in 2005, but the documentary in turn was never released. The clip has again reignited the long-standing debate around the controversial but iconic singer, the King of Pop, MJ. Here are some of the more contentious snippets from Schaffel's unearthed footage. Take a look.
Smells. Anybody read smells?
Shrimp house.
Smells.
Sit. Yeah.
All right.
All
right. Now you're talking. Hurt me. I want one of those police bikes. Is that a Harley?
You want to ride in the back of one? Second one back.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, for a shot at the hotel. No, we'll do a police walk at the hotel.
Yeah.
We'll do a police walk. I'll be in the middle and just put the guys on the side on their bikes. Okay? Hey, why down there?
Michael,
good now.
there's a new statement, fashion statement.
Yeah, it's like,
Look at his garage.
It's new fashion.
Your hand.
It's new fashion
What?
statement.
His new fashion statement.
Stop! They're gonna start burning. Gonna take me to the hospital. This is the room where the bunk beds were, where my brothers and I slept. And it was like usually two. Take all the dirty pictures off. It's where.
Well, with me now is world-renowned journalist Daphne Barak, who was the driving force behind this new cast of clips. Daphne, good to see you. So the 2 clips we saw there, never seen before in the world. One was Jackson and a friend, I'd say jokingly spraying some perfume on his crotch. And the second one, he's showing this film crew around one of the bedrooms in his house, and he's saying, hide the dirty pictures. What do we make of this? What's your interpretation of this new exclusive footage, Daphne?
Ben, I was really very surprised when I was approached by Mark Schaffel through a mutual friend, because I said Michael Jackson has never seen footage. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, I knew Michael. I was friends with him. I did big special with him and his parents. I think that every frame was sold for millions. And then, of course, the story behind it, that this footage was never sold and never saw air date because Michael was indicted and Neverland was went through a raid. So we are very fortunate to have this glimpse into his life. We're talking about a life of the biggest star on earth, but he was already shaken. It was after the documentary with Martin Bashir, which raised a lot of questions about his relationship with the children. And as a result, there was basically that's why he was indicted and his whole world collapsed. So I think what we see really is that he's going back to his home. As you see, Ben, the home is very messy. I mean, lots of garbage on the floor, and basically he's trying to be nostalgic. The thing with the perfume, I mean, I watched 3 hours of footage. I picked these 4 clips for the Daily Mail, the Sun on Sunday, and GBNews exclusively. I thought the perfume show a sense of humor, but you know, not everybody would love that kind of a sense of humor. It's a bit dirty. And then there are many sad moments that basically he says that he was never let, he says that by the time he was 12, he was already traveling, and he was never let go and just see the world. He was never allowed outside the hotel, so he never saw the world. And it's actually a very sad. And last thing, Ben, if you notice in the footage at home that you're just showing, he said in that small room, that was the bedroom that mother slept with Joseph. And sometimes Janet was there as well because she was small. He doesn't call Joe Jackson father. He said his mother was with Joseph. You know what to make of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the new, is it right to call it a biopic, is out on Netflix called Michael. Of course, doesn't touch on his controversies or the child molestation accusations, but yeah, the relationship with his father is, well documented. Just finally, Daphne, you've sat through 3 hours of footage. You said you were friends with Michael and you knew him. I guess my one big question is, as a massive Michael Jackson fan, I think he was amazing. Do you think he was a paedophile?
Well, Ben, I was at your show when I did the big exclusive with the Casio family, that they do accuse him of being a pedophile. I think there are two ways to look at Michael. He was a genius, probably the biggest musical genius in our era. Nobody can dispute that. And he could be very sweet, very cute. However, these stories are coming, and I always say we are not allowed to silence victims. And if victims wants to come out, we should give them the voice. I leave it to your audience to judge, but I'm just very happy to share these clips that show this big icon in very private moments, and everybody should just like it or dislike it, but that's the Michael that everybody would like to know.
Okay, great stuff. Daphne, thank you so much. You can read Daphne's full story on the Daily Mail, and indeed GB News will be following up as well. Daphne, thank you. Daphne Barak, world-renowned journalist. Right, let's pose that big question to my panel. Mark Albert, Greg Swenson, Stephen Pound and Paul Cox. Paul Cox, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. Was Michael Jackson a paedophile, Paul?
Well, obviously I don't know the answer to that. The first album I ever bought was bad.
No, don't cop out. Don't be a politician. What do you think? From what you've seen and heard over the decades, do you think Michael Jackson was a child predator?
I think he had an unhealthy relationship with children. I think that stemmed from his own childhood, and I believe that he was allowed to get too close to some children, and as a result, he could be accused of paedophilia, yes.
OK. I don't think... So do you think he sexually assaulted children, Paul?
I think that he may have sexually assaulted children, yes, Ben.
OK. Does it change your view of him as an artist? I don't know if you like Michael Jackson, but does it change anything to you? I mean, for example, I can't listen to Lost Prophets anymore, the Welsh band. They were great. I loved them before we found out that their lead singer, Ian Watkins, was a degenerate POS who went around doing all sorts of demonic stuff. So I can't listen to them anymore.
OK, there's a world of difference
between...
There's a world of difference between the Lost Prophet singers, lead singer, and the things that Michael Jackson is accused of. I'm not one for the death penalty, but he should have. I mean, he got his own death penalty in the end. So he was absolutely depraved, Ben. Now, I don't want to get into the discussion about whether there's a spectrum of paedophilia, but if there is, Michael Jackson's at one end and the Lost Prophets lead singer is at another. But I still enjoy the music. I do still enjoy the music. I think art can stand alone from the artist. Now, I still, but that said, I mean, I was never into the Lost Prophets, but there was absolutely no chance, knowing what I know about the Lost Prophets lead singer, that I would not listen to them at all now. No.
Yes. OK, Stephen, same question to you. Do you think Michael Jackson was a predator? And also, if you do think he was a bit wrong on that front, a bit weird, can you separate the artist from his behaviour?
Well, this is the old argument, about Picasso and Caravaggio and everything like that. But I have to say, when I heard you say some unseen footage, my heart absolutely sank. Because 20-odd years ago, Mr. Mohammed Al-Fayed, who I didn't know what I know about him now, rang me up and he said, could you come down to Fulham for the Wigan game on Saturday? Because I'm big Fulham fan. We got Michael Jackson is coming down there and I want to introduce you to him. And I said, yeah, I'm going to the match anyway. So I went down there and Michael Jackson was there with his brother, I think Jermaine Jackson, holding a parasol over his head. And Mohammed Al-Fayed goes, Michael, I want you to meet the man who runs the country. This is our Prime Minister, Mr. Stephen. I'm trying to explain a backbench Labour MP was not actually the Prime Minister. But so I said, Mr. Jackson, it's a pleasure to meet you. Do you like football? He said, it's really nice to be here in your country. And I said, do you see much football? And he said, it's really nice to be here in your country. So I said, do you think we should actually go 2 wing-backs and try to push up forward and compress the midfield? Anyway, at the end of it, we won. And so Philip Albert scored, distinguished name, and I remember we beat Wigan 2-0. But he signed the programme for me. I hadn't realised that he hardly ever signed autographs. And I gave that to a local hospice, a charity. And you wouldn't believe the money I got. Well, you know, I just couldn't believe the money I got for it. But I have to say, I felt... And then Mr Al-Fayed, of whom we now know much more, then erected a statue of Michael Jackson on the riverside at the glorious Craven Cottage, which the minute he left, believe you me, we were down there with angle grinders and cutters and hacksaws and sledgehammers, because without a doubt, whether he was a practising paedophile... Whether he was a practising paedophile or not, he was certainly a predator without any shadow of a doubt. And I think what Paul said about an unhealthy interest in young people, I think that really sums it up. Let's not go into the details. He was a wrong one, and I think you said it right.
All right, I remember that statue outside Craven Cottage. I thought it was great. Shame they tore it down. Let me give you my position, Greg and Mark, on Michael Jackson. I think from watching all the clips of him as a child, staring out the window in the studio with his dad walloping him with the belts and being beaten and burned with an iron, and he describes to Martin Bashir, that other absolute POS, Martin Bashir, in that documentary, how he would look out the window at children playing in the playground whilst he was trapped in a studio getting beaten and just crying and just wanting to go and play and just be a child. So I think he grew up, of course, you know, a phenom, a talent, an absolute talent. However, I think he was obviously very disturbed by his childhood. I don't think he was a child sex predator. I don't think he was a paedophile. I think he had an unhealthy relationship with children. He wanted to relive his childhood that he never had, and he did some inappropriate things. But I would say, Greg, who goes on national TV with Martin Bashir and says, yeah, I love sharing beds with kids, with boys. It's great, of course I do. It's so innocent. We have milk and cookies. If you were a paedophile and an absolute wrong-un, you wouldn't do that. So I don't think he's a paedophile.
Well, and look, he was a strange bird. You know, I mean, it's just seeing his pictures. I haven't seen a photograph of. I mean, you couldn't help but see a photograph of Michael Jackson.
Very disturbed
every
guy.
day for 30 years, and then, you know, I haven't seen one in a while. And you just look at his face and what he did to it. You know, I mean, he obviously had issues. Can you separate the artist from the art? It's difficult not to do that with Michael because he was such a phenom. I mean, late 70s right through to early 2000s, but especially in the 80s, the guy was an absolute icon.
Yeah. Mark, your thoughts on this?
So to be clear, in 2005, the jury acquitted Jackson on 10 counts. So 4 counts of committing a lewd act with a child, 1 count of attempting to commit a lewd act on a child younger than 14, 1 count of conspiracy to commit false imprisonment, 4 counts of providing alcohol. So the jury said there was reasonable doubt that there wasn't enough evidence there to convict. And to Greg's point about the ubiquity of his fame, look at the biopic that you mentioned, Michael, which just came out here this year, $1 billion worldwide.
Yeah.
So that is a complicated verdict, I suppose we could use a word, on his legacy.
Yeah, I think he's great. And do you know what? Without getting too deep, I don't think you can make music as pure and as magical as that if you've got some evil inside you. I don't think it's sort of possible. I don't think it's possible.
I hope you're right.
Right, gbnews.com/your say. I also think Michael Jackson, for a long time, he was calling out the boss of Sony. He was trying to call out a lot of the sort of the globalists and people who were pulling strings behind the scenes. And yeah, I'm not saying that he was bumped off or he was killed by his doctor, but nothing more than that. But I think he was a very shrewd guy as well as a generational talent. I think he was the most talented pop star Earth has ever seen, actually. Right, some comments. Somebody said, Mark, hello Mark, Michael Jackson was just a lost child inside. He felt closer to children than adults. I don't think he was. He just had an unhealthy relationship with children. He just wanted the childhood that he never had. Yeah, I agree. Janet said, first time I don't agree with you, Paul Cox. Michael Jackson's childhood was stolen by his own parents. He never got to grow up. Those people who accused him of abuse were motivated by money. And Christine said, no, I don't believe he was a paedophile, but strange how he cut down the statue of Michael Jackson, but doesn't go rushing to have the statue ripped down outside the BBC BBC. And Paul, hello Paul, you've said, I think Michael Jackson was a very damaged person, which happened in childhood. Whether he was guilty of what people say, I really don't know. Right, thank you for those. Of course, Jackson's estate has always strongly denied all child molestation allegations made against the singer. And as Mark correctly pointed out, he was acquitted in court as well. Right, moving on. A major decision looms over the future of drilling in the North Sea, with the Scottish Conservatives warning that blocking the Jackdaw and Rosebank oil and gas fields is a matter of, quote-unquote, life and death. Officials say drilling at either sites could support more than 3,500 jobs during construction and 880 jobs externally. And they aren't the only ones urging Labour either to drill, baby, drill. This, of course, is what US President Donald Trump was saying just the other week.
When you look at the UK, they have one of the best energy fields in the world, North Sea oil. Now, I think your new Prime Minister is going to actually open up from what I hear, I spoke to him, and he sounded terrific on this subject. But you open it up, you'll be a wealthy country. You keep it closed, you're going to be a bankrupt country, which is what you are now. Essentially, you're a bankrupt country.
But not everyone agrees, of course. Stop Climate Chaos Scotland, who is that? Some new group, Stop Climate Chaos Scotland, it's a coalition of organisations, is urging the Prime Minister to block the new developments. Joining me now is former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove. Tom, good to see you. Thanks for staying up with us. It's a matter of life and death, say the Scottish Tories. I mean, is that a bit hyperbolic?
No, I don't think so. And this is hugely important, not just for the Scottish economy, but also for the UK economy as a whole. And I would argue that you're not serious about energy security and getting the cost of bills down unless you're willing to take these strategic decisions. They're eminently sensible, the obvious thing that we ought to be doing across a whole host of fronts, that economic benefit. Also, why would you be wanting to import material and resources that we can obtain locally? That makes much more sense to do that to a higher standard of extraction than would be the case from other parts of the world. Do that in our own backyard and help to deliver the economic benefit of this as well.
OK, Tom, it was your lot, though, your lot, as in the Conservatives, the Conservative government, who signed net zero into law.
Well, look, I've always been very sceptical about an arbitrary target. The way that this ought to be done is in a way that works for our economy and that works for our society. And if there's things that you can do that helps to deliver local generation to meet local need, that to me seems a sensible thing. But what we ought not to be doing is, in the world that we live in at the moment, that is incredibly volatile, look at what's going on with the Strait of Hormuz. We've seen a 90% reduction in freight coming through that part of the world, that really important source of oil that is so important to our economy and to those of our allies. We cannot continue to have that level of reliance. That is not something that's likely to improve anytime soon. And oil and gas accounts for about 75% of our domestic energy requirements and how we meet those needs. So anything that we can do, anything that we can take charge of our own destiny and get on and do that helps us to have greater certainty about our supply can only be a good thing. You have to deal with the world as it is, not as you'd like it to be. And I think that's why Kemi's right to say that we ought not to be wedded to that net zero target, and we ought to go about doing things that are practical and that make sense for the UK taxpayer, and that make sense to make sure that we can have the security of energy supply that we need.
Yeah, and all those thousands of jobs as well, not just energy security, but the economy, all the jobs it will create in the process. Tom, last question to you. The public consultation for Rosebank ends on Monday. So the public are being asked about Rosebank, continuing drilling there and exploration. What do you think the public will say? What do you think the response will be?
I would hope that there will be very significant support expressed for this. Of course, all of the usual campaigners from the sort of green lobby will have no doubt made their views known. But we have to face facts here. When you look at where you are in the world, in the United States, consumers, households are paying far less for their energy. We're paying around 100% more for electricity here in the UK. And manufacturing businesses are paying 300% more for our electricity. That is not a tenable situation for the long term, and that goes right to the heart of jobs. It goes right to the heart of prosperity, and there's a choice here that can be made. So what I hope is that the Prime Minister and ministers will set aside all of that and get on and do this. This was thwarted previously through legal process. We cannot allow this to continue, because this is just something that is so important for our energy security, for our prosperity, for all of the jobs, but also getting people's bills down.
Yeah, well said, Tom. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And again, thank you for staying up with the Late Show Live. Very grateful, and we'll see you soon. Tom Persclove. Right, let's speak to our panel here in DC. We've got Mark Albert, Greg Swenson, and in London, Stephen Pound and Paul Cox. I'll ask the guys in London first, seeing as it's a British story. Paul Cox, yeah, the consultation for Rosebank is up on Monday. What will the public say, and will Labour listen?
There's a reason that the Conservatives won in Aberdeen, which is in Scotland, by the way. The Tories won there at a local by-election just recently, is on this matter alone. And it cannot be overstated how significant it is that the Conservatives won in Aberdeen in Scotland. It's very unlikely that would have been the case had it not been for Jackdaw and Rosebank. The gas and oil that's available in the North Sea needs to be extracted, not only to keep the jobs going in that part of Scotland, but for our own fuel sovereignty as well. We need to explore beyond that. The thing about Rosebank and Jackdaw is that they've been open for some time, and now we've essentially put the cork in, and we're taking the cork out, and we're gonna suck out of those pipes what's left in the mines below. I think there's much more that can be done in the North Sea, and there's much more that can be done if we put aside some of the zealotry that comes with net zero, Ben.
Yeah, I don't think it's just zealotry, it's a cult. I think it's the cult of net zero, which will go the same way as COVID, where in about 5 or 10 years, everybody associated with the deranged march to net zero and the fight against fossil fuels will say, out of pure embarrassment, I never said that. I never called for net zero, like they do with COVID. Stephen Pound, the Telegraph reported a few days ago that Britain is facing £54 billion in a bill for the North Sea shutdown. A lot of it comes from a shortage of specialised ships needed to clean up abandoned oil rigs. In 2022, the North Sea Transition Authority, NSTA, said that decommissioning the North Sea would cost 36 billion. That's now gone up to 54 billion. 54 billion quid, Stephen, to spice ourselves in the face and not drill in the North Sea. That is obscene, and also it's criminal.
I'm sorry, those figures are very, very dubious indeed, and they extrapolate over about a 25-year period. But look, here's a couple of things. Jackdaw and Rosebank are actually down to the last drops of oil and the last cubic feet of gas down there. We can either go forward, and I think to a proper, secure British energy for British people without having to rely on Russian oligarchs and the fluctuation of the oil prices. And that has got to be a renewable source of energy in this country. Now, I'd like to say that I'm an absolute zealot on this. As I look at my country burning around us, and I see there's undeniable evidence of climate change, and I see even countries like China are actually introducing huge amounts of solar power and actually moving away from coal and fossil fuels. I think we need to be doing our bit in this country, and we want an energy mix. Where I do agree with those people who talk about Rosebank and Jackdaw is a transition to our nuclear, hydro, wave, nuclear, all those forms of energy that we want to use. Yeah, by all means, squeeze the last few drops out in the meantime. But the real crisis, the real absolute disaster about this is that Norwegians had exactly the same base point as us. They started on the same point. They decided to invest in a sovereign wealth fund and to use that money for virtually free social security for their senior citizens. We splurged that money out by giving it to venture capitalists and actually giving it in tax cuts at the time. We actually sold the past on this. We should make up for it now by saying we got it wrong. We have to have energy security in this country. And to go back to the past, dragging the last few drops of oil out of Jackdaw and the last few cubic feet of gas out of Rosebank, I'm sorry, that's going backward. Let's go forwards and actually be a secure energy company when we can actually start reducing the prices. And don't forget, there's 1 million people in this country work on renewable energies. So when they talk about the 1 million jobs up in Aberdeen, there's 1 million well-paid jobs with a future, not jobs rooted in the past.
Right. Well, I mean, you say that China's moving away from fossil fuels. They're building the equivalent of 2 new coal-fired power stations a week in China. Yes, they are. They're absolutely not. What, you think China's going net zero, Stephen?
Yeah.
Do you think they're stupid enough, like Britain, to go net zero and
No,
kill
they're going
themselves?
nuclear. They're embracing
economy?
nuclear and solar, and fair play to them for that.
They might be doing that, but they're also building the equivalent of 2 coal power stations a week. That is a fact. They are not ditching fossil fuels, just like America. They are building. They're investing in renewables, solar farms, nuclear, but they're also not spiting their face like some silly little child who is like Britain is doing by going completely net zero. Greg, I mean,
it's a shame that,
just insane.
that Rishi Sunak and the wet Tories only approved 2 wells. They should have approved 22 wells. There's a lot more to do there. So I'm with Paul on that, and Stephen for that matter. You know, that we need oil and gas now in the United Kingdom. We're paying 4 times as much for energy than American businesses pay. We, the UK, were energy independent in 2005, a net exporter of oil and gas. It's criminal what they've done, the suicide and the self-destruction in the United Kingdom because of these net zero fanatics. It's shameful. The sooner we can fix that, the better. And it's great to see the Tories coming around to it finally.
Well, I will say, I'm not going to let the Tories off the hook. It was them that signed net zero into,
I agree.
into statute.
Totally.
When I met President Trump, Mark, in the Oval Office, he said to me, "How are you getting on in DC?" Well, I said, "Mr. President, I love DC, I love America, because your energy bills are so damn cheap." And I told him how much they were in the UK, and he was just shocked. He was stunned.
And that's what I was going to say. There is a transatlantic angle to this, which is President Trump needled your former prime minister, saying there are 2 issues he should be focused on. One is immigration, and the other is drilling for oil. And so I wonder how your new prime minister is looking at the debate with that lens. And to Greg's point, the U.S. Energy Information Administration just last month said the United States produced more crude oil than any other country in 2025, continue a streak that I think began in 2018. And so this is absolutely a subject that President Trump is very keen on pressing, and I wonder how much that may play in any decision here.
Yeah, I just, look, pursue renewables, which some may work, some may not, as far as I know. I'm not an expert, but don't, as I said, don't just completely kill yourself.
And plus, it's way overdone. And when you hear these comments, you know, that, oh, okay, well, we just have to maybe extend the target a little bit or not pick an arbitrary target, that's just nonsense, right? If you want to develop alternative energy, you know, all of the above, great. Yeah. Let the technology work. Let it come around. I think that, you know, the reason they're building solar panels in China is because they want to sell solar panels. But, you know,
well, they also make all the wind turbines.
Nuclear, you know, obviously hydro, you know, and wave technology, all good. But let the free market work and not have the energy policy determined by these net zero guys like Ed Miliband, who's wrecking the country.
Yeah, there are some days when the UK is mainly powered by renewables. We see it sometimes, but then when the wind stops blowing and the Rampion wind farm off the coast of Sussex stops working, that's not the case. You need something to back you up. Stephen, very quick question to you, Stephen, before I move on from this subject. What difference, if the UK went completely net zero tomorrow and we were 100% renewables for here until the end of time, do you know what effects that would have on global temperatures?
Absolutely. It would be minimal because we'd only be one small part of the whole global map here.
So what's the point?
So what's the point, Stephen? Ben, it wouldn't be nothing. It would be a very, very small amount. But, you know, instead of cursing the darkness, let's light a candle.
Ben, can I just point out?
I
mean, there is Rosebank itself has got 2.2 usable billion barrels of oil down there still. We use 1.4 million a day in the UK. That's about 4 years worth of oil for the UK. That 4 years is a lot. I know we can't, at the moment, under current rules, we have to sell that back into the market, and we don't necessarily save any money because, you know, essentially that oil comes out, it goes to a refinery, and it's how that, once it's refined, it's then sold into the market. Now, if you can buy cheaper or sell more or whatever, you might go away. But if we change the law and change the rules and we add 4 years worth of oil to ourselves, that is very significant, incredibly significant.
But we don't have the refinery capacity.
We have refineries down in Hamble in Hampshire.
Nothing like.
But why don't we build the reason? Okay, my point is, we could build an entire industry and ecosystem around this. We could imagine the tax revenue from it. It'd be great. Imagine the jobs from it. It'd be great. Yeah. We could give ourselves fuel sovereignty, and the Earth isn't going to care. It's seriously not going to care.
I know. I know. I said on X the other day, the human psyche, where our egos are so big, thinking that we have an effect on the climate from activities we do here on Earth. Go back to the 60s and 70s, front pages of Time magazine and so on, saying we're entering a Siberian climate. All those predictions saying that Britain wouldn't know what snow was by the year 2000, we'd be under a Siberian climate by 2010. All come to nothing. So what's different this time round? What is different this time round? And also, by the way, turn the countryside into Swiss cheese. Start fracking in the United Kingdom. There's liquid gold, there's gas under the United Kingdom, which will serve us for decades and decades and decades to come. I think net zero, final point, sorry to rant, I think net zero is deeply anti-human. I think it's suicidal economically, and I think it's actually quite evil. So, there we go. A spokesman for the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, who would probably object to what I just said there, said the North Sea remains a vital national asset supporting jobs, growth and the UK's energy security. We are clear that oil and gas will continue to play an important role in our energy system for decades to come, alongside transitioning to clean power to protect jobs and tackle the climate crisis. The climate crisis. OK, right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight. What a tune. Anyone familiar with it? Tupac, after almost 30 years after the drive-by shooting that took his life, a jury of 6 men and 10 women has now been selected to hear the evidence against the man accused of orchestrating the killing. Will Tupac's family finally get answers nearly 3 decades on after his murder in Las Vegas? This is The Late Show Live. Your weather. Back in a sec.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Certainly a more changeable week of weather on the way out there this week. It's quite wet in some northern areas today. Southern areas will hold on to some sunshine for at least a while, but it will be turning more humid for all of us. So out there this morning, a few showers in the south and the southwest of England in particular. But for many parts of England and Wales and northeast Scotland, it will be a largely dry day. The best of the sunshine by this afternoon probably for parts of Wales, central, southern and southwestern parts of the UK. Turning quite wet though for Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The odd heavier burst of rain pushing in here through the afternoon. Quite a humid feel wherever you are out there this afternoon, and highs in the south 26 to 28 degrees Celsius, so another very warm day, particularly in the sunnier areas. Now out across northeastern parts of Scotland, it will be a lot fresher here, quite a cool feeling day with temperatures a little bit below average for August, but actually there'll be plenty of sunny spells out there on Monday afternoon for Shetland and Orkney. Turning increasingly wet though for western Scotland, the central belt, as we head towards the rush hour. And for Northern Ireland, some heavy bursts of rain pushing in here as well, particularly through this evening. Mostly dry at this point across Wales and southern parts of England, so plenty of evening sunshine here. Just a small chance of a shower for southeastern England for a time. Now through the course of tonight, the rain spreads its way northeastwards across Scotland and also southwards across England. So quite a wet night to come for many parts of the UK. The rain in the south quite showery, but several millimetres of rain possible in a few spots. So some welcome rain for the gardeners and the farmers. Look at these temperatures though, 15 to 18 degrees Celsius overnight, so quite a warm and humid start to Tuesday. Bit of uncertainty as to how quickly the rain clears away from southern England on Tuesday morning. It might just hang back a little bit longer than the graphics suggest at this stage. Northeastern Scotland will also stay fairly wet, particularly Shetland and Orkney. Otherwise, a mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers for northwestern areas, and mostly dry with hazy sunshine for parts of England and Wales. Not as warm as today, but still temperatures above average in the south, a cool and more blustery feel in the north.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right.
GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Right, almost 30 years after the drive-by shooting that took the life of rap icon Tupac Shakur, a jury of 6 men and 10 women has now finally been selected to hear the evidence against the man accused of orchestrating the killing. Prosecutors claim the former gang leader, Dwayne Davis, masterminded the September the 7th, 1996 ambush, which left Tupac fatally wounded and fueled decades of conspiracy theories. Tupac went on to die later on in hospital. It was in Las Vegas. Opening statements in the trial are expected to begin on Monday. With me now is lawyer and legal commentator Deborah J. Blum. Deborah, good to see you. First things first. Are you a Tupac fan? Are you familiar with his work?
Hi, thank you so
hello,
much
Deborah.
for
Can you
having
hear me?
me on. Yes,
Are you a Tupac fan, Deborah?
I am. I love that song that you played before. In the
Yes, great song. Yeah, I was just playing it in the break.
Yeah.
Yes, go Deborah. Go Deborah. Look, this has taken a long time to get to this point. 30 years after his murder on the Las Vegas Strip in 1996. Why has it taken so long and why now? What's happened?
Well, Dwayne Davis wrote a book or co-authored a book where he pretty much made an admission to being involved in this murder. So that's going to be used against him at trial. His defense attorney made a motion to try to keep it out. But the best thing for him is the fact that this is from 1996. So much of the evidence has disappeared, right? Because people don't keep records from that long ago. And also, it was before everything was on surveillance. So nowadays, we would definitely have surveillance of who was in the car. He'd be pinpointed at the scene of the crime. His cell phone would have tracking. So the prosecution would get a warrant and they'd obtain the information from his phone. So I actually think he might have a good chance here.
Yeah, and I was a massive Tupac fan, believe it or not, growing up, and Biggie and all the sort of gangster rap. I know lots about it. And what happened on the night he was shot was that Tupac and his friends beat up a guy in one of the Las Vegas casinos. I think he was a member of was he a Blood or a Crip, one of the gang members. And later on that night, Tupac was then shot as he sat in a car with Suge Knight, his record label boss. And ever since then, people have been saying, well, I reckon he's alive and he's on Epstein Island somewhere, or he's being given a new identity, or it was Suge Knight who killed him, or it was this or it was that. How do you think this trial is going to pan out? Are we going to get answers or just maybe even more questions potentially?
I think we might have more questions. Suge Knight doesn't want to testify at trial. However, the prosecution does have the ability to subpoena him as long as the judge signs off on it. I haven't seen the witness list, so I'm not sure if they're intending on calling him. What I think is really interesting about this trial is in Nevada, you can be charged and tried for murder even though you weren't the one that fired the shot. So he's just alleged to have orchestrated this whole thing, and normally that would be charged under conspiracy to commit murder, which generally might have a lesser sentencing possibility.
Oh,
But
so
here
this
he's
guy,
charged with
Davis,
murder.
didn't necessarily pull the trigger, but he orchestrated it. Got it. Okay, so I guess we never really will find out who pulled the trigger. I mean, there were suggestions that it was Suge Knight. He's always denied it. But Deborah, fascinating. Thank you so much. Great to see you dancing as well and enjoying Tupac. And from one Tupac fan to another, thank you so much for appearing on The Late Show Live, Deborah J. Blum. Thank you very much. Let's speak to my panel. Mark, Greg, Paul and Stephen. Stephen, are you familiar with Tupac? I'll read you some of his lyrics if you want. If you're not familiar, shall I read some lyrics? Oh, I can't hear you. Your mic's gone, but I think you said yes. Right, Tupac's lyrics are... I see no changes. All I see is racist faces. By the way, I'm a Tupac fan, so I'm not mocking this. Misplaced hate makes disgrace to races. I wonder what it takes to make this one better place. Let's erase the wasted. Take the evil out the people. They'll be acting right because both black and white are smoking crack tonight, Stephen.
Yeah, you've got to go with it. You've got to get the beat right. But I mean, to a certain extent, I mean, it's like Allen Ginsberg and Ferlinghetti and Corso and a lot of the the American beat poets. But he's incredibly influential. And don't he was a trailblazer without a shadow of a doubt. But Ben, I'm a little bit uncomfortable about actually discussing the details of this when the case is actually ongoing. I don't know what the law is in America, but certainly...
You're saying it's in America.
OK, so we're OK, so it's not sub judice.
I give you permission.
Yeah, well, bless you for that, my son. But look, what's odd about? I mean, it seems to me that there's an overtone of gangsterism going on here. Whether it's the Los Angeles Bloods and the Crips or not, I simply don't know. But it sounds to me as though there's something pretty murky going on. And, you know, there's things happening in Las Vegas that, you know, maybe we shouldn't be discussing. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like a fairly murky. And it could be maybe gangster rap to gangsterism is what's happened here.
Yeah, it all sounds murky. Paul, your take?
I think I might be having a fever dream. I appear to be discussing Tupac with Greg Mark and Stephen Pound. I didn't think this would happen, but let's do it anyway. It's interesting, 30 years, 1996. 1996 was a bit of a seminal year for me. I loved 1996. I was not into gangster rap in 1996, and of course a year later, Biggie, the notorious B.I.G. Was also slain. Lots of controversy around that as well. I hope they get an answer. There must be some Tupac family out there that would be very interested to understand. It could start another gang war, though, Ben. That would be my fear. I'm happy to discuss this, but I don't want to get involved in any gang wars, Ben. I don't know about you.
Yeah, careful. Watch those BMWs pulling up next to you. Greg and Mark. Greg, your take on this?
So, look, until you played that song during the break, I don't think I'd ever heard a Tupac song.
No, you have.
It was a phenomenal cultural moment in the 90s. You know, this was when Michael Jackson, who we talked about earlier, had sort of peaked in the late 80s and very early 90s. So, you know, this was a massive movement culturally. You had the West Coast and the East Coast. So, again, I didn't listen to the music, but it doesn't mean I wasn't fascinated by all this East Coast, West Coast, and gangster rap. And it was a big deal. And so anybody my age remembers when Tupac was killed and Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah, it means a lot to a lot of people. Mark, any take? Do you remember when he was killed?
Yeah, I was in Los Angeles at the time, actually. I was going to say that the trial is estimated to last about 3 weeks, so perhaps, Ben, you could take the show on the road to Vegas and
Tupac
be
special.
a legal correspondent and host the show from there. It's being live streamed.
Yeah, I don't mind rapping as well. I'll rap. I know I've read his lyrics out quite...
You could rap us in and rap us out for every break.
Yeah, all right, that sounds good. OK, let's move on from Tupac. I know lots of British viewers maybe won't be familiar, probably don't care. It's quite a big American story. I know Tupac. I was a massive fan growing up. Still am a big fan of his and Big E's as well, Biggie Smalls. Somebody said, for God's sake, please stop with the Tupac stuff. You have no idea. So there we go. That's our cue to move on. Thanks for that, Jay. Right, let's move on. President Trump has said the US will substantially reduce joint military exercises with South Korea. He went on to cite his very good relationship with North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un. So just to clarify, he said that to the Pentagon, we're going to scale back our cooperation with South Korea because I'm mates with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. He also took to Truth Social to write that South Korea had recently declined to join the US in the denuclearization of Iran. Trump posted on Truth, quote, these exercises are not only costly, with much of these costs paid for by the United States of America, as usual, but send a signal that is totally inappropriate and hostile. Mark, extraordinary story. Trump is basically saying, I'm mates with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, so I'm going to stop working as much with the South.
Ronald Reagan is rolling over in his grave tonight. This is really something that I don't think we would have expected from an American president. The policy of the United States for 80 years, essentially, 70 years, has been to support our allies, to be a deterrent. That's why we have, 30,000 troops over there. And joint exercises are a hallmark of part of the training that U.S. forces do with our allies in Asia. And so this is quite stunning, and quite frankly, it's Christmas in August for Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, just as an off point as well, what a great deployment in South Korea. I mean, you could be sent to Germany or somewhere, but you go to South Korea. Where's your nephew based?
He's on the Abraham Lincoln. He's in the Gulf.
He's a top,
an
F-18 his nephew is a
pilot.
Top Gun pilot.
Wow.
He's a fighter pilot.
Thank you for his service for us.
I will. His ship is either leaving soon because it's going to be replaced by the George Washington, I think. But if that doesn't happen by September 15th, he's getting 2 weeks leave to come home and get married.
We covered this last night on the show. The Lincoln has been at sea for 250 consecutive days.
Which is not the record. I mean, there have been longer deployments. I'm not suggesting
but they've not. I understand they've not stopped at any ports in that time.
They have not. They have not.
And how's your nephew doing?
He was complaining about the food 6 months ago, so I don't think that's new. new. But I do think that it's difficult when they don't get to go into a port for a long weekend or something. And
well, at least your nephew can jump in an F-16 or whatever he flies and just bugger off for a couple of hours.
But I think I was pleased to hear that the ship is actually returning to San Diego. If it's not by September 15th, then he'll get. They already promised.
Congratulations.
He'd get leaves. Yeah.
Well done to you, him, and your family. You must be very proud.
Yeah, we are.
What do you make of this Trump situation with South Korea?
Well, it's typical President Trump. And David, you brought up a great point. We never expected an American president to say something like this, but we don't expect. We never expected an American president to say a lot of things. And he's provocative. He's very unfiltered. So he throws a grenade in the room at least once a week on Truth Social. Most of the time, it doesn't stick. I don't think. I don't think this will stick. I think the pivot toward Asia makes exercises with South Korea all the more important. So I just think this is something he was annoyed that they're not doing enough in the Gulf, so he throws that bomb out there. Maybe they buy it, maybe they don't. But I don't think that we'll see a dramatic reduction in forces or in exercises with South Korea.
Do you think it could be cover? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, the George Washington, which is relieving the Abraham Lincoln, is coming from Asia. So I wonder if you say, well, we're going to scale back exercises anyway, that's cover for not having to curtail the exercises because you redeploy the carrier.
One thing that we've been reading a lot the last few days, Ben, is there are challenges in the Navy. We need more ships. I mean, the reduction in ships has been going on for decades, and we need more. So, that's why these deployments have gone. There was no conflict when the Gerald Ford was out for a record deployment. I think it was
COVID.
Well over. Yeah, maybe that was it. I mean,
during COVID.
But it's I think that we need more vessels, and then we'll have more capabilities.
Well, you and us both.
Well, and speaking of that, I think the U.S. currently has 10 active aircraft carriers. China, I think they just christened their third, and their goal is, so they are rapidly expanding, and I believe they have more commissioned ships currently than the U.S.
They have more ships than we have in the Navy, which should worry us. Now, granted, our ships are a lot bigger and a lot better, but they're catching up.
Would this have anything to do, Mark, this sort of surprise reconciliation mentioning of Kim Jong-un, in the fact that I think yesterday or the day before we learnt that North Korea is going to be sending something like 20 to 30,000 troops to Ukraine to fight for Russia?
At least.
Is maybe that something to do with it? Is Trump looking at this and thinking, hang on a minute, Kim, don't you do that? Does he care that much about Ukraine?
So to Greg's point, this happened, I think it started happening 18 months, 24 months ago, where Putin had asked North Korea reportedly for help, and so North Korea had been sending some troops there. Well, absolutely.
It's criminal.
Absolutely. And so I don't know whether that is part of the justification here. I'd love to know.
I mean, remember when they started off, what is it now, 10 years ago, when they had their little fights, their playground brawls, and they were calling each other names.
Kim and Trump.
Yeah.
Rocket Man.
So, there's a really oddball relationship there. Obviously, the guy's a lunatic. So, it's just, if this is the way that the president wants to get something, he's very transactional, as we know. And if this is the way to do it, it's not standard operating for an American president. We can all agree on that. But I think he usually gets what he wants.
Right. So what does he want right now?
Yeah, that's what we're trying. Yeah, that's a great point. Does he want? And so is it the Ukraine thing with the North Korean soldiers, or is it support in the Gulf to from the South Koreans who are quite dependent on oil from the Gulf?
Okay, very quick one. Police seizures of dangerous e-bikes have rocketed by 83% in a single year after a series of serious injuries, fatal crashes and crime, including phone thefts. The staggering surge is sparking fresh demands for a nationwide crackdown on illegal and modified models. Just last month, police carried out an operation to catch illegal e-bike users near Tottenham Court Road Station in London's West End, which is a hotspot for phone theft and other street crime. Guys in the UK, Stephen, Paul, surge in in e-bikes seizures. Police doing a good job, Paul?
I wouldn't say that they were doing a great job, no. I think that they're picking at low-hanging fruit constantly, and I think focusing on the wrong things. I mean, these e-bike crimes are being committed by a certain type of people, aren't they, Ben? We ought to point that out. It's not you and I. I've not seen Stephen Pound on an e-bike snatching phones.
You weren't looking. Oh, sorry.
I saw Stephen Pound I saw Stephen Pound on an e-bike listening to Tupac swiping phones out of kids' hands at Tottenham Court Road Station.
That is
Stephen,
a meme.
was that you?
That's a meme. I didn't know what Stephen Pound was doing with his hands then. I was desperately worried, as was the producer. Look, we need to focus in on what's underlying all of these issues. Every now and again we get these stories pop up, e-bikes this, Deliveroo that, whatever it might be. The underlying issue is always the same. It comes back to the layer within our society that is entirely fed by illegal immigration. I know we're on GB News, I know this is red meat, but it's true, and until a government comes into power and does anything about it, we're constantly going to be talking about it, Ben. If a right-wing government, or a right-leaning government at least, comes into power next week, starts dealing with these things, you and I are going to have to go concentrate on our sports commentary career.
I think it's surely the key...
it's always my dream. Go on, Stephen, last word to you.
Isn't the key thing here, Ben, that at the moment the companies, like Forest and Lime and that, they should actually have third-party insurance, and how they are able to get away with not having third-party insurance is really criminal. But look, let's get to... I don't think that the majority of the people using the e-bikes are sort of criminal scroats and villains, and most of them seem to be commuting about London. And don't forget, the Ken cycles, later renamed quite wrongly the Boris bikes, were actually a great success in our city. And you see it all... I've seen it also in San Francisco and some of the other cities I've seen. They're extremely successful. But we have a mess. The legislation in this country is ridiculous. You can ride a bike on one side of Hammersmith Bridge and not on the other because each council has its own different rules. And people are dying because there is no insurance, no third-party insurance. So it's a good idea, but it's badly run.
Yeah, they're very dangerous in Austin as well. When you come out of Dirty 6th Street and you've had a few bevies and get onto one of those e-bikes or scooters, many people end up under cars. A government spokeswoman has said illegal e-bikes that can reach dangerous speeds have no place on our roads and the pavements, and the rise in seizures shows the scale of the problem police are dealing with. That's why we've strengthened police powers, changing the law so that officers no longer need to issue a warning before seizing these vehicles where they are used anti-socially. Very good. More coming up in the next hour on The Late Show Live, including this.
I've got cancer.
No.
Yep.
Jeremy Clarkson has slammed plans to strip men of the right to request a prostate cancer test. Is the government taking men's health seriously enough? That and more after the break. See you in a sec.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Certainly a more changeable week of weather on the way out there this week. It's quite wet in some northern areas today. Southern areas will hold on to some sunshine for at least a while, but it will be turning more humid for all of us. So out there this morning, a few showers in the south and the southwest of England in particular. But for many parts of England and Wales and northeast Scotland, it will be a largely dry day. The best of the sunshine by this afternoon probably for parts of Wales, central, southern and southwestern parts of the UK. Turning quite wet though for Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The odd heavier burst of rain pushing in here through the afternoon. Quite a humid feel wherever you are out there this afternoon, and highs in the south 26 to 28 degrees Celsius, so another very warm day, particularly in the sunnier areas. Now out across northeastern parts of Scotland, it will be a lot fresher here, quite a cool feeling day with temperatures a little bit below average for August, but actually there'll be plenty of sunny spells out there on Monday afternoon for Shetland and Orkney. Turning increasingly wet though for western Scotland, the central belt, as we head towards the rush hour. And for Northern Ireland, some heavy bursts of rain pushing in here as well, particularly through this evening. Mostly dry at this point across Wales and southern parts of England, so plenty of evening sunshine here. Just a small chance of a shower for southeastern England for a time. Now through the course of tonight, the rain spreads its way northeastwards across Scotland and also southwards across England. So quite a wet night to come for many parts of the UK. The rain in the south quite showery, but several millimetres of rain possible in a few spots. So some welcome rain for the gardeners and the farmers. Look at these temperatures though, 15 to 18 degrees Celsius overnight, so quite a warm and humid start to Tuesday. Bit of uncertainty as to how quickly the rain clears away from southern England on Tuesday morning. It might just hang back a little bit longer than the graphics suggest at this stage. Northeastern Scotland will also stay fairly wet, particularly Shetland and Orkney. Otherwise, a mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers for northwestern areas, and mostly dry with hazy sunshine for parts of England and Wales. Not as warm as today, but still temperatures above average in the south, a cooler, more blustery feel in the north.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bo, they are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christys tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News breakfast is there.
with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter? So that's a very live question. Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Live from Washington, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
I'm not looking to get into lawsuits, but I think I have an obligation to do it. This was so egregious.
President Trump escalates his war with the BBC, accusing the broadcaster of harassing his family after they tried to subpoena his children in the $10 billion Panorama defamation case. Also tonight,
far too many that have come don't work, have never worked, and never will work.
do you agree with this? Reform UK has announced plans to ban foreign nationals from claiming almost all types of benefits if they win power. Just how much support do you reckon this will have all across the country? Also tonight,
I've got cancer.
No.
Yep.
Jeremy Clarkson has slammed plans to strip men of the right to request a prostate cancer test. Is the government taking men's health seriously enough? We'll discuss that in a second. Also,
should the wealthy be ready to pay more tax on their assets and their properties?
4 days in, I mean, you're asking me now to write, the next budget or, the next manifesto.
Taxes are back in the news. Could a major California exodus be on the horizon because voters are preparing to decide on a proposed new wealth tax targeting the state's billionaires? Is this a tool to address soaring inequality or just an unworkable left-wing woke gimmick? Also tonight.
All right, your daughter Ivanka will be taking Caroline's place on The Apprentice.
Correct.
Nepotism.
That's true.
Why?
I like nepotism, you know. If you take care of your kids, you know that better than I. Look at your
Ted Turner
beautiful
was
kid.
a big fan of.
I like nepotism.
This is a good talker. Is nepotism the only way young people can land a job? Because YouTube star and presenter Amelia Dimmelberg says so. Is it all grit and hard work to get to the top, or is it the connections you have, the family members, maybe your mum or your dad, that matters most? I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Hey, good morning. Hope you're well and you've had a very pleasant weekend. Welcome to The Late Show Live. I'm joined this evening in Washington by my panel, journalist and broadcaster Mark Albert and Chair of Republicans Overseas UK, Greg Swenson. In London, we've got former Labour MP, I was about to say Stephen Swinford, Stephen Pound, sorry Stephen, and GB News contributor and comedian Paul Cox. I don't know, it's 2 in the morning, Stephen, I don't know. You tell me.
Not where you are,
Thank you very much, appreciate it. No, it's 9 p.m. A bit more palatable. Right, let's move on to our main news this evening. Former Top Gear presenter and star of The Farm, Jeremy Clarkson, has slammed plans to strip men of the right to request a prostate cancer test. Under proposed changes, middle-aged men would lose automatic access to prostate blood tests, with GPs instead given greater discretion over who actually does get screened. Previously, men aged 50 and over were entitled to a test, even without showing symptoms. Campaigners have now branded the move a backward step, warning it could leave thousands facing late, incurable diagnoses. With me now as my panel, as I said, Mark, Greg, Stephen and Paul. Chaps in the UK, I'll start with you. Paul, have you had your prostate checked yet? Sorry to ask such a graphic question. Say, you don't want to answer if you want. Have you had yours checked?
Stephen offered in the break, actually, but I declined. I have had my prostate checked, yes, for all the right medical reasons, Ben, and she's tickety-boo at the moment, and I encourage everybody else to do exactly the same.
So did you, sorry again, tell me to mind my own business, but did you just go because you were entitled to it previously as per this story?
No, so I'm not.
Did you, I don't know, how did it work?
I'm 46 years old, which in the UK doesn't mean you're entitled to a prostate check just for, just because of your age. That happens over 50, I think, maybe even 55. I actually was telling the story to Stephen in the break, because all that stuff I said about Stephen, of course, wasn't true, in case he hasn't had a right of reply yet. But I was telling that I did a comedy gig for a prostate cancer charity one time, and an audience member went and got his prostate checked the very next day and was found to have cancer, and it saved his life. So ever since then, I've been very aware of the necessity of men to make sure their prostate health is checked, and it's a very easy test, and it's the sort of thing that can save your life quite quickly, because prostate cancer is incredibly curable, Ben.
Yeah, indeed. If you catch it early, most certainly. Stephen, what do you make of these? So the government is basically scrapping the test that middle-aged men were entitled to, the automatic test, whether they had symptoms or not. Do you think Clarkson's got a point here, slamming the government for doing this?
People within the sort of danger area can still request it without any shadow of a doubt. That's not an issue. But don't forget, the single most successful health campaign in this country, certainly for the last 25 or 30 years, has been prostate cancer awareness. Every single Premier League football manager now wears that badge. You watch any game, you'll see that they're all wearing. And so I think there's a huge awareness now, and you can still go to your GP and request it. And I have to say, I defer to Paul here, because he's done a great deal of work actually raising the issue, certainly through his own métier. But you can still raise it. So I don't actually see what the issue here is, because you can still get it. However, it makes more sense for people of my age group to have it than people of Paul's age group.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I had mine done actually the other day. I got a full blood work done in DC. I had like 14 vials of blood. I almost collapsed. I almost fainted. with 240 different markers, all sorts of stuff. I've got
Were you selling it or giving it?
For some reason. No, I was skint. I was selling it. No, I'm joking. No, but my PSA, my prostate test came back, the PSA 0.1, of course, which is probably normal for a lad of my age.
Good news.
Greg, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, it just seems like a no-brainer. It's a simple blood test, and it can be done like in your case, Ben, where it's done with other tests. You're getting blood drawn anyway. You just check another box and have a PSA. So I'm not sure why they would take that risk and make the argument that only men who have certain other conditions or certain tendencies toward that particular cancer should get the PSA done. It just doesn't make sense to me. Seems like a cheap and easy way to avoid much higher costs later.
Yeah, just saving money in the short term when in actual fact you're going to be splurging a lot more in the future. Mark, any thoughts?
Well, since we're all sharing here on GB News, let me say that I've had mine checked, and when I had my 45th birthday, there were two things on my calendar. One, go somewhere fun, and two, get my colonoscopy, because in the U.S. now the guidelines have been lowered from 50 to 45. Just like getting your prostate checked, very preventable and treatable cancer. And so I had my colonoscopy, came back fine, don't have to do it for another 5 years. But these are tests that really, if you're a man of the right age, you should absolutely be looking into getting.
Yeah, the bowel cancer is on the rise all over Europe and the UK. In fact, my dear friend, who's maybe 5 or 6 years older than me, he's currently going through bowel cancer, has been for a long time. He's only young. Is that the same in the United States? Mark?
I don't know.
Not sure. Greg?
Yeah,
why did you get a
colonoscopy?
That's for bowel cancer.
I've heard more talk about it while living in the UK, frankly. The NHS seemed to be pretty aggressive with sending letters and, sending text messages about bowel cancer. But
am I being dense here? A colonoscopy is for bowel cancer, amongst other things.
No,
is that right?
For colon
in
cancer.
the colon, in your colon.
Colon cancer, yeah.
So close. Same neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
In the same neighborhood, I like that.
That's why I'm a journalist and not a medical expert. Okay, Paul, has Jeremy Clarkson got a point here? I guess I can't see any Brits really, regardless of political persuasion, who would be against what Clarkson's saying here, slamming the government for taking these tests away.
Of course it's a point. I mean, it goes without saying, really. Of course, this is a money-saving exercise. It's nothing else. And, I've never done this before, but this could be considered, or they could lay themselves over to racism claims as well, because you're far more likely to have prostate cancer if you're a black man than if you're a white man. So that's going to open the door to all sorts of accusations, which I'm sure we'll have to discuss at some point in the future, Ben. But it's just a simple test. If we can't afford that, obviously prevention's better than cure, right? It's a lot cheaper to prevent things than it is to pay for the cure. So just whatever it is, an extra million here, an extra couple of million there, or whatever it is, just account for it. It will save lives and it will save money.
Yeah. All right, a few quick your says before we move on. Ali Elliott. Hello, Ali. You've said, Stephen, men can request it now, but it's down to the doctors, the GPs, whether they allow it or not. It's disgusting. The government are trying to save NHS money. Typical Labour mentality. Deborah has said, hi, Deborah. Ben, not just cancelling the test, but also putting folic into flour, which doubles the chances of prostate cancer. Got to ask why. Tammy has said, you can't get a doctor's appointment and men don't go to the doctors at the best of times, so they won't be asking for a test. Juliet has said anything to do with the dodgy carcinogenic sofa materials in the UK. Yeah, don't know about that, although that is a serious point. All the materials they use in all sorts, carpets, paint as well has been found to be carcinogenic. Yeah, Pseudomass has written something which has made me laugh, but I'm not going to read out. Right, a spokesman for the Department of Health and Social Care has previously said the policy had not been changed and the previous guidance had been, quote, retired because it was ambiguous, saying that the final decision had always been with GPs, adding every man still has the right to ask their GP for a PSA test, and it remains the case that the final decision rests with GPs. All this letter does is tell GPs and others where to find the most up-to-date guidance, which is what our friend on your side was just saying there. Elsewhere, in another story, The Times is reporting that Sir Tony Blair and Jared Kushner met Hamas leaders in Egypt on Sunday before a meeting in Jerusalem with senior Israeli officials over the stalled peace plan for Gaza. The meeting in Cairo was called to push the Islamist group to give up their weaponry in order to advance the peace plan in Gaza. And that's according to two sources quoted by Axios. Former Prime Minister Blair and President Trump's son-in-law Kushner, together with Nikolai Mladenov, the Board of Peace High Representative, are in the region in an attempt to salvage the peace deal struck in October to end the war and rebuild the territory. Hamas, though, which controls less than half of Gaza now, also sent its officials, including its new chief, Khalil al-Hayya, to the Egyptian capital. The US has in the past negotiated directly with Hamas to both free Israeli hostages who have been captured on October the 7th and more recently to try and enforce its disarmament. Mark, any thoughts on this? Tony Blair, Jared Kushner?
Well, we are 70 days out, so just over 2 months from the Israeli elections. And that, of course, brings its own input and tenor into these talks, and so I would imagine if they could get something done sooner than later, that would be beneficial.
As in it would save Netanyahu?
As in things may get very complicated the closer to the Israeli election you get.
Do you think Netanyahu will turn the screw and just go wild?
Well, so the current polls have him perhaps a few seats short in Parliament. And so is he going to be of a deal-making mind the closer he gets to the election, or is it more beneficial to hold out?
Got it. OK. So if he's got a good chance of victory, he wouldn't necessarily be inclined to come to a deal. Yeah. Greg?
And we have elections here in 2.5 months. And I think this, that peace agreement was probably the signature Trump moment in terms of foreign policy, or his greatest accomplishment of his second term, maybe since the Abraham Accord. So I think it's important for this to work out, and that's why he's going to send Jared as often as he can.
And no doubt he would love to expand the Abraham Accord to other countries. That won't happen until this gets resolved.
That's right, because a lot of them have said, you're right, Mark, that that we will not join until there's a two-state solution, and this is a necessary step to get to that remote possibility.
Have either of you, maybe not as Americans, maybe more me as a Brit, have you got a problem with Tony Blair lurking around the Middle East trying to solve peace deals? I mean, goodness me.
Not as much in the U.S., but I can tell you from being in the U.K. for 10 years, he has very little credibility on anything Middle Eastern because of his experience with Iraq.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a bad smell that doesn't go away. I mean, yeah, let's ask the guys in London. Stephen, Paul. Paul, on your say, Paul, another Paul, has said, how the hell is Tony Blair still getting his nose stuck in these situations? The guy is a liability. What's your thoughts on Blair?
Sorry, is that with me? OK, I thought we'd allow Stephen just because they're friends. But look, for me, Tony Blair...
Are you friends with Blair? Sorry, Paul, go on.
I'm assuming Stephen Pound is.
I was a Blair babe. Let's not forget.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what a Blair babe is, but
I served under him. Yeah.
Again,
all right. Paul.
Tony's not here to deny that. Yeah. But what I would say is.
It's a matter of public record.
Look, Tony, I'm going to try and make this serious just for a second. It got to just over 2 o'clock and I just made it silly. I'm sorry, Ben. Look, Tony Blair, I don't think has any right to be at these tables, but he is. The slow march of the institutions was. The general of such was Tony Blair. So he is laced throughout. And as a result, there is no getting rid of Tony Blair. We've just got to accept that Tony Blair is part of our international political fabric until the day that there is no more Tony Blair. So I'm not sure he should be in there. Why he's in there, we should ask him these questions. It would be great to get him on the show and say, Tony, why do you think you're the best man for this?
Well, the answer is he probably wouldn't say he's the best man, but I'm pretty sure from what the conversations I've had, he just thinks this is a job that has to be done. But what I can't understand is Hamas are still executing people on the streets of Gaza. They are still running a de facto dictatorship on their particular on the Mediterranean coast. But the great tragedy of Gaza is that when the ceasefire was originally agreed, and fair play to President Trump and everybody who's involved in that, but we were then going to have this Palestinian Riviera. We were going to actually see this 1,000 flowers bloom. It was going to be a marvellous new dawn for the Palestinian people. There's no new building. There's no construction. The only construction in Gaza at the moment is a military base. There's nothing, so I don't know what's happening. But I can't understand how Hamas, which is, I think, widely recognised as a dictatorial, brutal terrorist organisation, is actually sending people out of the country, presumably flying out there, presumably via Ben Gurion Airport. I don't know. How can they operate as a quasi-government when they are gangsters? And are we not giving them credibility by that? Or is it the old argument that you simply have to talk to some very unpleasant people if you want to get some pleasant results? But I'd like to see a bit more action. The border peace at the moment is redundant.
Well, it was Keir Starmer who recognised, at the behest of Marco Rubio and the United States administration here, recognised Palestine as a state, along with Emmanuel Macron, the other absolute wet wipe, almost scuppering any peace talk. So that's your lot who did it, Stephen. Your lot recognised Palestine as a state, which Hamas, by the way, let me finish this, Hamas said was a reward for October the 7th. So you're asking now why people are negotiating them like they're some sort of organised government. Well, I guess they are, because you and your party recognised Palestine as a state.
So you can't have a state which doesn't have a border, and nobody can define the borders of Palestine. Never, as I said at the time.
So why did Starmer do it then?
Yeah. You have to ask him. All I said at the time to the people I spoke to, you cannot define a state which doesn't have defined borders. End of.
Well, your bunch of cranks in government did.
Yeah. Yep. And they must be accountable for it. I'm accountable for my views. They're accountable for theirs. Yeah.
All right. Just finally, before we move on, Stephen, what everybody on your side is saying, why the hell is Tony Blair there? What's going on here? We don't want him there. Just as a former colleague and I guess maybe friend of his, what characteristics, what qualities does he bring to these peace talks?
He brings extraordinary qualities of connectivity, and he still operates at a very, very global level without a shadow of a doubt. He may not have credibility with Greg, and I've got a lot of time for Greg's analysis, and certainly there are people in this country who still have the dreadful overhang of Iraq, which actually, in some ways, casts into shadow his great achievements, particularly bringing peace to Northern Ireland when nobody else could do that. However, he is still a man who's devoting and dedicating himself to his vision of sort of global peace. And I think you've got to give the guy some credit for that. And other people give it. President Trump gives him credit, and I think it's the least we can do is to actually recognise that Tony Blair can do some good. And if this, in some ways, actually compensates what happened in Iraq, then so much the better.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Let's move on. Could a major California exodus be on the horizon? I mean, I thought there was one already. They're all going to Austin and Florida and bringing their silly politics with them and then complaining when things... I mean, I don't get this. All the Californians leaving California because politically it's a dump and they saw what happened during COVID, and then they bring their politics with them to Texas and Florida.
I don't know about that. I think that's a concern of Texans. You see the bumper stickers, don't bring your politics to Texas. But I don't think that's happening. And if you look at Florida, Florida's become more of a red state since the exodus really accelerated in 2021 and 2022.
I'm off there tomorrow. My flight's at 7 a.m. So anyway, the story is, let me get back to the story. Sorry for going off on a rant. Voters in California are preparing to decide on a proposed new wealth tax targeting California's billionaires. Fresh data, get this, shows thousands of high-earning taxpayers have already left the state, taking billions of dollars in income with them. Billionaire Mark Cuban is warning the controversial measure could push out not only just wealthy residents, but early-stage startups and vital venture capital. And of course, the tech sector in California was booming. Maybe it still is. So, are wealth taxes ever justified to tackle inequality, or are they simply a left-wing gimmick? Let's speak to Reem Ibrahim, reporter at Reason magazine. Reem, is there going to be an exodus in California? Have we seen one already, really? I mean, the likes of, I know he's not a billionaire, but well, probably is, Joe Rogan. He infamously left LA for Austin. What's your take?
Yeah, and Joe Rogan is not the only person. Of course, the famous people that we hear about, people like Joe Rogan who have already left the state of California, partly because of all of these threats about this sort of wealth tax that they're talking about. So this is Proposition 40. They are saying it is going to be a one-off 5% tax on anybody with wealth over $1 billion. So this is a wealth tax. It is not an income tax. It is about, there are about 200 billionaires in California that may be affected by this. And of course, lots of those people are looking to leave. So the real controversial aspect of this particular bill is the fact that it is retroactive. So it would apply to billionaires who were in California before the 1st of January 2026. So if you were in California from the 1st of January 2026 and you've left this year, that would then apply to you. So even though those voters won't decide the measure. They won't be decided until November. Those people are still being applied to. So it is one of the most, I think, pernicious ways in order to try and increase revenue for the California state. Of course, because California state tends to spend an enormous amount of money on all of their programs. And of course, a lot of the supporters are unions. I think it's the SEIU, healthcare workers are saying it's going to raise $100 billion. It's going to be amazing. This is all down to a particular type of politics in which people believe that in order for us to reduce wealth inequality, in order for us to improve the lives of people in the state, we must take more from those that are wealthy and give to those that are less wealthy. And of course, this entire perspective politically is untrue because it sort of assumes that there is a fixed amount of wealth in the economy, which we know is not true. Lots of these people, these very, very wealthy people, are creating jobs, they are creating businesses, they are creating and investing wealth. And of course, one of the massive worries regarding this particular proposition is that it will drive out investment for those very people that Californian legislatures claim to protect.
Yeah, lots of pushback from this, including from Steve Hilton, David Cameron's former director of strategy, who is now an American citizen. He's been naturalised. He, of course, is in the governor race for California to be governor. I think it's in November, the election. He said that businesses will just flee the state, of course. And the likes of Google co-founder Sergey Brin, he's donated $100 million to a political campaign to fight the so-called wealth tax. However, Reem, surprise, Democrats apparently, according to polls, have been in strong support of the wealth tax. But Reem, isn't it just the truth that these people, these billionaires, they're not like you and me, where potentially, you know, we're not as mobile, let's just say that. These guys have fingers in all the pies, access to the world's greatest minds. They can go wherever the hell they want with their money. Do politicians like Gavin Newsom in California, do they not understand this? That if you take the mickey out of people so much, especially billionaires who can do what they want, they're just going to leave and you're not going to get any money at all.
You're absolutely right about the mobility of very wealthy people, and this is true more in the United States than anywhere else in the world, partly because if you are in the state of California, you can so easily move to another state in the US. It is so easy, it is so quick, you can do it. The bureaucracy is very, very little compared to moving abroad, which is something that we, of course, talk a lot about in the United Kingdom. If you are in the US and you are leaving the state of California, it is very, very easy to leave. And so I think the conversations about wealth in particular and about wealth inequality really do miss the mark. And I think that the quote from Margaret Thatcher in her final speech as Prime Minister really does encompass exactly this argument. The idea that they would rather the poor are poorer so long as the rich are less rich. And the reason why I think that encompasses this so well is that this is not about improving the lives of Californian people. This is about taking money away from those that are wealthy. And so lots of these politicians do not really care about the fact that this may not actually result in the best outcomes possible. They would just rather the rich were less rich. It is about the politics of envy. It is about the idea that any problem in the US is to do with this particular wealthy class of people that are politically connected, these particular people that are hurting ordinary people. And of course, none of this is true. Actually, America is the richest country in the world for a reason. And I think that, just to put this into context, Ben, for our British viewers, this is part of a wider political phenomenon that we're seeing in the US, part of something called the Democratic Socialists of America, the DSA. Lots of politicians that are now propping up in the US are doing that, including people like Zoran Mamdani. And these people are proposing extraordinary spending measures. And of course, lots of people are supportive of it. Lots of young people are supportive of it because they don't know any better.
Yeah. Yeah, well, J.D. Vance, I mentioned last night, J.D. Vance was on Joe Rogan a few weeks ago and he was asked about polling showing that a lot of young people now, I think overwhelmingly in America, are sort of pretty much commies. They support communism or at least socialism. And J.D. Vance, you know, correctly said, well, do you blame them? They can't buy homes, they can't have families because they've got no home, nothing's really working for them. They're looking at the boomers who are hoovering up all the houses and the equity and, you know, they're all right, Jack. So he kind of had some sympathy. So it's a problem for the Conservatives, both sides of the pond, to work out, because the truth is, what are young people, what have they got to conserve? Nothing. They haven't got careers really to conserve. They haven't got assets or property to conserve or families to conserve. So, I mean, are you surprised something's gone wrong somewhere? Reem, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And we'll catch up soon. Mark, thoughts?
Yes. So just to clarify, I'm from California. They have a very unique initiative system in California. And so this particular wealth tax initiative was put forward by a union and gotten on the ballot. Gavin Newsom, the governor, actually opposes it, although he supports a federal one. So just to be clear, this isn't the government of California putting this to the voters.
No.
It's a union that put it forward as an initiative.
What union is it?
SEIU, Service Employees International Union.
Oh, okay. Sounds fun.
Well, it's
like restaurant workers,
hotels,
hotels,
etc.
restaurants.
So you can gather enough signatures in California, and you can put anything almost on the ballot. That's how this came up.
And look, what's tied to the UK, where the UK has lost somewhere between 27,000 and 35,000 millionaires in the last 2 years because they changed the tax code to penalize people that were successful and wealthy who were paying a lot of tax and also spending a lot of money in the UK. The same thing has happened in the US. In 2022, California lost $24 billion of taxable income. New York, 14 billion. Illinois, my home state, 10 billion.
Where have they
Guess
go?
Where it went? 36 billion went to Florida, 10 billion went to Texas. And that's continued over the last 2 years. My numbers are a little stale. But it's going to happen again, and Gavin Newsom knows that. So he's a really left-wing progressive. But even he has figured out that the people are going to continue leaving my state. He's tried to wreck that state, and he's doing a good job. But I think he's finally got the good sense to oppose this referendum.
Well, also, he's only got a few months left, right? It's the governor election in November.
I don't think he's up. Is he up this?
No, that's what I mean.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, there is a governor's race here in November.
His term's done, right? He's out.
Correct.
So he'll be out in January,
But everything he does now, you have to look at the 2028 lens.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, is he really a nominee for that when you've got an app bossing?
I don't know if he'll be the nominee, but he's clearly testing the waters.
Yeah, interesting.
Amazing.
Paul and Stephen, your thoughts on wealth taxes? Stephen, have wealth taxes ever worked anywhere? I mean, we've got one in the North Sea. On oil companies, but have they ever worked really on billionaires?
We've got a fair bit of evidence to show that they don't work. Also, pretty close to home. I mean, last year in Scotland, they actually introduced this taxation at a higher level and actually resulted in less take. So one of the statistics is, and it's pretty well known to most of us in this country, it's something like 60% of our total income tax take is actually produced by 10% of the population. So, look, I think at the moment we do have a wealth tax. We have a wealth tax. It's called taxation. And that is, we seem to have reached a level at which the Laffer curve doesn't operate. It's not the idea that the higher you have the taxes, the less income you get. We've actually got a fair compromise in this country at the present time. Look, when you listen to people like, Abdurrahman El Sayed and Mandami and some of the people with the DSA in America and Alexandra Cortez Ocasio, some of the things that they're talking about seems to be intensely simplistic to me. It seems to me that they've created an enemy here, and they said, look, if we can actually drag these people down, everything will be good. There'll be milk and honey will be flowing through the streets tomorrow. I think that's simplistic and dangerous. Yeah, no, I'm saying there's not a great move within the Labour Party, I have to say, to actually talk about that. There are some people, if you want to talk about people who are zealots for tax, talk to the Greens, talk to some of the people in the Liberal Democrats. But most people in the modern economy realise that there comes a point where you can kill the goose that lays the golden eggs.
Yeah, look, Reem quoted...
Paul?
Reem quoted Thatcher from 1990, her last speech in Parliament, and it reminded me of probably my most favourite comment was actually from another great Conservative leader, Sir Winston Churchill. He said, "The inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessings. The inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of miseries." Now, I've always liked that quote because what it does is it holds capitalism up and says it's not the most perfect thing, but at least it's trying to share good, whereas socialism is always trying to bring people down to a level. It's never trying to elevate anyone. It's always trying to bring people down. You will never, ever make the poor richer through socialism, and that's the biggest con.
It's worked in Sweden, it's worked in Finland, it's worked in a whole range of countries. So democratic socialism is a perfectly valid and reasonable and fair way of operating. The problem is you define what is socialism. And I think that's the real issue here is that what the DSA are talking about is not a socialism that I recognise. I believe in democratic socialism, pretty much on the European model. And I have to say I'm slightly amazed by some of the stuff we're actually hearing from the DSA, which is why I look more towards people like John Ossoff down in Georgia, some of the more sort of rational Democrats now who seem to be actually recognising there's a real problem here. You listen to people like Josh Shapiro. There are sensible Democrats who recognise that this particular idea is a blind alley. You're going to lead the Democrats over the edge of a cliff. And I would be a Democrat if I was in America. Of course I would. But I think that this particular argument, typified, absolutely targeted by the wealth tax, is actually bringing into very, very sharp focus something which is potentially very, very destructive. And I have to say, if I was Donald Trump, which thank the Lord I'm not, I'd be chuckling as I lie in my bed at 3 o'clock in the morning eating hamburgers and drinking milkshakes and Diet Coke, thinking, my God, the Democrats are making my job easy for me.
Greg?
Yeah, well, Stephen has
Mark.
a point, and I think we agree that too much taxation ends up resulting in less revenue. You know, when they approached Barack Obama in 2009, the Treasury Department, and said, Mr. President, if we raise capital gains taxes, the tax revenues will go down. And he said, do it anyway, because it was an ideological argument for him. It wasn't about the practical means of running the government. Look, any argument that the rich are undertaxed in the UK or the US is just a lie, promoted by the left in both countries. And so, you know, right now, 1% of the Brits pay 30% of the taxes in the UK. The so-called European model, Stephen, I love you and you're my favorite man of the left, but that's why Sweden was failing and they've moved more towards capitalism and reduced the tax burden, because the 70s, 80s model in Scandinavia was a failure. So they're as good a capitalist as anyone now in the Scandinavian countries. I'm very proud of what they've done.
And as far as I remember, I may be wrong, although I think I'm right, the Treasury in the UK, in the wake of the reformed stamp duty receipts are now down because people just aren't moving house. They think, well, why should I have to pay increased stamp duty to move house? And likewise on second properties as well. So it just goes to show, you tax people and tax people and tax people. People, capital gains, they just won't sell their assets, or they just won't move home, or, you know, worse, not encouraging this, they just won't declare it. So you get too greedy and people will just say, well, no, you don't deserve it, you've had enough, I've had enough.
Such a good point, Ben. By the time you get to a wealth tax or an inheritance tax, which is equally as bad, essentially taxing the successes of the past to pay for the follies of the future, it's already navigated every other tax you can imagine. Income tax, VAT, I'm talking about the UK, not the US here. Every single possible tax available to the government, it's already navigated every single one of those before it's then taxed on just existing. You were fortunate enough to have some of it left, so we're going to take some of it from you. I mean, that's just disastrous economically.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. A very quick comment on your say. Annie has said, very smart panel tonight, so congrats to you four chaps. And somebody else, Linda, hi Linda, you said, Ben, one of your best shows. Really fast-moving, interesting conversation without the stupidity of shouting from other panellists who I won't name. A panel of intelligent men. Thank you, boys. I appreciate it. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
All right, your daughter Ivanka will be taking Caroline's place on The Apprentice.
Correct.
Nepotism.
That's true.
Why?
I like nepotism. You know, if you can't take care of your kids, you know that better than I. Look at your
Turner
beautiful
was
kid.
a big fan of.
I like nepotism.
Is nepotism the only way young people can land a job these days? Well, YouTube star and presenter Amelia de Moldenberg says exactly that. Is it all grit and hard work to get to the top, or do you need a connection, a favour, a leg up here and there from a friend or family member? This is The Late Show Live. Quick look at your weather. Back in a sec.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Certainly a more changeable week of weather on the way out there this week. It's quite wet in some northern areas today. Southern areas will hold on to some sunshine for at least a while, but it will be turning more humid for all of us. So out there this morning, a few showers in the south and the southwest of England in particular, but for many parts of England and Wales and north east Scotland, it will be a largely dry day. The best of the sunshine by this afternoon probably for parts of Wales, central, southern and southwestern parts of the UK. Turning quite wet though for Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The odd heavier burst of rain pushing in here through the afternoon. Quite a humid feel wherever you are out there this afternoon, and highs in the south 26 to 28 degrees Celsius, so another very warm day, particularly in the sunnier areas. Now out across northeastern parts of Scotland, it will be a lot fresher here, quite a cool feeling day with temperatures a little bit below average for August, but actually there'll be plenty of sunny spells out there on Monday afternoon for Shetland and Orkney. Turning increasingly wet though for western Scotland, the central belt, as we head towards the rush hour. And for Northern Ireland, some heavy bursts of rain pushing in here as well, particularly through this evening. Mostly dry at this point across Wales and southern parts of England, so plenty of evening sunshine here. Just a small chance of a shower for southeastern England for a time. Now through the course of tonight, the rain spreads its way northeastwards across Scotland and also southwards across England. So quite a wet night to come for many parts of the UK. The rain in the south quite showery, but several millimetres of rain possible in a few spots. So some welcome rain for the gardeners and the farmers. Look at these temperatures though, 15 to 18 degrees Celsius overnight, so quite a warm and humid start to Tuesday. A bit of uncertainty as to how quickly the rain clears away from southern England on Tuesday morning. It might just hang back a little bit longer than the graphics suggest at this stage. Northeastern Scotland will also stay fairly wet, particularly Shetland and Orkney. Otherwise, a mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers for northwestern areas, and mostly dry with hazy sunshine for parts of England and Wales. Not as warm as today, but still temperatures above average in the south, a cooler, more blustery feel in the north.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Right, here's a good talker, a good debate. Is nepotism the only way young people these days can land a job? Because YouTube star and presenter Amelia de Moldenberg says exactly that. The 32-year-old creator believes young people deserve better, calling for more opportunities for those not in education, employment or training, commonly known as NEETs. She said, quote, "The vast majority have everything they need to get employment, but they are in a rejection loop. They just need someone to open a door for them. They need someone who knows someone to send their CV to someone. They need nepotism, basically." It comes after revelations that more than 1 million 16 to 24-year-olds across the UK are not in work, education or training, which is the highest level since 2013. Joining me now is the journalist Amaria Aratesh. Amaria, good to see you. I kind of agree with her here, but I don't think it's nepotism. For example, when I was desperate to go and work on a national newspaper, The Sun, I found out who the news editor was, and for a year straight, I harassed them, emailed them, sent them stories for free. I said, here you go, here's a free story. I said, please, can I come up and do a night shift one weekend? Eventually, after 12 months, he said, yeah, come up. And that's how it all started. I did weekend shifts, did the night shift, the graveyard shift, and then I worked my way up. That's not nepotism. That's just finding out who you need to speak to and hustling, basically. Is that nepotism in your eyes? Amaria, what's your thoughts?
It's Amira, but that's not nepotism.
Amira, sorry,
no.
apologies.
No, you're so fine. That's not nepotism. No, that is an indication of exactly what more and more young people are going to have to do right now. I think it is a case of, for better or for worse, for right or wrong, it is a case of having to go that extra mile to seek out who you need to speak to, whose door you kind of need to knock on 1,000 times. But what I think Amelia was saying is that it is that lack of access that young people are having now more than ever. And that I completely agree with. I mean...
what's changed then? What's changed, do you think, in recent years, Amira, for that to now be the scenario, the state of play?
I just think there are more... I mean, it's a mixture of things. I remember in 2018... Tatler magazine, I think it was, hired a beauty blogger to be their beauty columnist, taking that opportunity, not saying that that beauty blogger wasn't well versed in her craft, hadn't spent ages doing her own level of experience, but that did take away an opportunity from a journalist who maybe wanted to go into the beauty sector. So I do think there's a lot to say about the way the media is moving into, like the new realm, the new space. We're moving away from traditional journalism and moving more into a social media era. I also think there's a massive issue with AI. For example, everyone says AI is coming for your job, but it kind of is in the sense that I think a lot of applicants aren't even getting their applications seen by the relevant person because a bot online is just deeming them an unworthy candidate, for lack of a better phrase. I mean, I remember back in my day, which sounds terrible to say, but there was always this joke about HR having such a huge stack of CVs because, as you say, it was always a competitive industry. They had this massive stack of CVs, and they'd have to just, I don't know, hopefully a rumor for all the CVs I sent out, but they'd have to just take half of the pile and chuck it away. And now I feel like the 2026 version of that is AI doing that level of work. And so there's even more of a loss of human connection in the application process.
It's a very good point, Amira, and I think it's a true point as well. You've now got AI screening bots looking for keywords or phrases, or if something is included, which they blacklist straight away. I mean, it's a bloody minefield. I will say though, do you think there's anything in the fact that I have this perception that I think young people these days, I'm 36, so I know I'm quite young, but I think people just getting into work now, probably instead of in the past where, for example, I would have taken any job. I went and stacked shelves at Sainsbury's for a while. It wasn't my ideal job. I then worked at a betting company doing PR. Again, I like gambling, but not really my ideal job. It wasn't my dream to do that. Do you think people these days, young people, are less inclined to just do anything for the time being and see what happens and hope for doors to open? Do you think they're more picky these days?
100%, but that's just, how, again, life has transitioned. There's a lot more focus on a slower lifestyle, a lifestyle that gives you a better quality of life. And there's a lot of good to be said about that, not kind of driving yourself into a massive health crisis because you're dead set on doing any job. But then the flip side of that is that you need to have some sort of balance, because I agree with you, my dad took multiple jobs whilst studying for his PhD, and that's something that, I also waitressed during uni, but I definitely didn't have multiple jobs. And now I guess, with the evolution of social media, it seems so easy, because I use inverted commas because the job of social media isn't all it seems, but it seems a lot easier to get a job doing less, or a less hard job than, stacking shelves, etc. And, that will be a factor. But again, I don't think that's what Amelia is leaning towards. I think she's just saying you can have all of the education, a lot of experience, you can be really, really good at what you do, or, have massive potential for what you want to do. But if the door's not open, how no amount of experience and education, etc., is going to help you knock that door down.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think she's probably right in the grand scheme of things. I think there's a wider conversation to be had about taking opportunities and just doing anything for the time being and just trusting that things will work out. But at the end of the day, if so-and-so's uncle works at a paper or works at some TV station and he can get you in above anybody else, yeah, I mean, what's going to happen? Amira, thank you so much. Sorry for butchering your name at the start. Apologies.
No,
but I appreciate you coming on. Thank you. Amira, thank you very much. Right, yeah, probably like rule 101 of journalism is getting people's names right. So maybe I need some more training. Mark, your take on this? I think the media, maybe more than any other industry, has a lot of nepotism in.
So, Bob, here's what I think.
Thank you.
Turnabout is fair play there. So let me tell you a little story. When I interviewed for a correspondent role at CBS News, I went through 5 rounds of interviews. I did not get the job. You know what I did the very next year? I quit my job as an investigative reporter in Minneapolis, and I moved here to D.C. anyway, which is where the job would have been. Yeah. And I kept knocking on their door until finally they gave me a shot to fill in one weekend as a correspondent on the CBS Evening News. That one weekend, being in the right place at the right time, being persistent, resilient, and keep following up, that turned into 3 years going around the world. Yeah. And so similar to me. Right, and exactly, your story. And so I do think there has to be some grit, there has to be persistence, and if you want it, you have to go for it. Don't rely on daddy or somebody else to give it to you.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, very similar story to me. I harassed that news editor for 12 months, and he probably got very annoyed
We
at me.
say persistence, not harass. Persistence.
No. Well, I just every now and then I'd send him stories and say, look, here's a free story, can you whack it in the paper? Sometimes it would make the paper, and then eventually there was a night shift, like 9 p.m. till 4 in the morning, something stupid. Sure. But then one time when I was lucky enough to get that night shift, some massive story would happen. I think George Michael died one time. So yeah, it's just how it works. And I just, if you want something, just go and get it. Don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had the similar complaints that the broadcaster was talking about, or the YouTuber, 40 years ago. And, it's easy to complain when you're getting rejections, but they help, and you bounce back from it, and you just keep trying, and you keep going at it. And I think the other issue in the UK right now is it's just really tough for young people, not because they're complaining or they're not, using their heads to get the jobs. The jobs just aren't there. When you have hostility to the private sector, whether it's national insurance, tax increases, whether it's, minimum wage. So now these starter jobs are a lot harder to get because there are fewer of them. And so I think that would help. And I'm dating myself here, but in 1982, none of my college buddies could get a job that graduated that year. 2 years later, you were turning away job offers. It was unbelievable, the difference between those first 2 years of the 80s, which were legacy of Jimmy Carter, in the 70s, to 83 and 84, when the Reagan deregulation and tax reform kicked in. It was I was lucky. I graduated at the right time, and even I could get a job in 1984.
I just think as well, maybe, despite me saying don't take no for an answer, maybe at some point you have to say, and be realistic and say, well, I won't get my dream. Why not train to be a tradie? All the millionaires I know today are my mates from school who left at 16, who at the time, people like me and the teachers were like, oh, you're not going to higher education. Oh, look at you, you're going to be a carpenter or an electrician. They're now all millionaires running their own companies, having the best times of their lives. So I think people need to think more about apprenticeships as well, going to learn a trade, being a sparky or a chippy, whatever.
I think there is that movement right now. When I grew up, you had to have the credentials. And lucky for me, I had parents who sent me to the right Catholic schools so I could have a better life than they did. They didn't go to college. Yeah. That was not uncommon back then. So being a first to attend university wasn't a big deal in 1980 because really hardly anyone's parents had been to university. But you still needed those credentials, and I think those credentials are less valuable now for young graduates than they were. Employers don't really care about the gender studies major from Yale. Yeah. If they can get some guy who's man or woman who's graduated and just worked.
Well, look at the creator economy. You don't need credentials for the creator economy to become a creator. Yeah. It's leveled the playing field in many cases.
Just
really
do it.
Has.
Guys in London, Paul and Stephen, have any of you been given a helping hand from family or friend in your industries?
there's any particular chance we could have had it. But when I was an MP, one of the things I used to do to talk to primary school kids, I used to say to them, just close your eyes for a minute and imagine what you're going to be like in 20 years' time. What would you like to be? Because you're at that age now where there is no limit at all on what you can be. Now, open your eyes and tell me what you want to be. And this kid said to me once, I want to be a celebrity. And I thought, dear God in heaven, you know, at least in my day, you wanted to be a footballer or a train driver or something like that. But I remember, you know, talking to my son actually is an electrician. You know, he, like me, he left school at the earliest possible age. In my case, I had very little choice in the matter, but in each case he did. But I think that's one issue, and I think you're quite right. This is what the Milburn Review is actually concentrating on, about there's opportunities for realism and also maybe internships and apprenticeships and moving away from the entirely academic, you know, to a different world where actually vocational skills are valued as much as here. Don't forget, in Germany, anyone who's an engineer gets called doctor. I mean, you're an engineer. If you're in Germany, you'd be called Dr. Cox. Doc Cox. It's got a ring to it, hasn't it?
Dr. Cox does have a ring to it. Stephen, I'm astonished how much you know about me. It's unreal. He was reciting some of my comedy act earlier on, stuff that I'd forgotten from 2018. Incredible.
It's what we call plagiarism.
Yeah, well, you know, thank you very much. But, I mean, unlike your day, you can't go into schools now and ask children to shut their eyes while you talk to them. That's not allowed anymore. But, Stephen, I do appreciate you sharing your anecdotes with us. I never had a helping hand, but I would give my daughter a helping hand. One thing I would say, irrespective of the helping hand you might be given, there is only one thing that would lead to success ultimately, and that's desire and hard work. There's no two ways about it. Everyone I know, and I'm sure this is true of all the gentlemen in the US there, especially your Sparky mates and construction mates, Ben, every single one of them would have the endeavour to really work hard to get where they wanted to go. Some people will even work until 3 a.m. on national television talking to Stephen Pound. You will eventually get there.
You have paid your dues.
I have. But that's true. So I have helped my daughter get a job while she's doing her A-levels. Someone, interestingly, happened to know me from this very channel, and I reached out and said, would you give my daughter a job? She has done. And she's done incredibly well in terms of how hard she's working. If she hadn't have done, she still wouldn't be in that job irrespective.
Yeah. Well done, Paul. You sound like a great dad. I know you're a great dad. Right, before we say goodnight, I'd like to ask my panellists what they're up to tomorrow. Greg, what are you up to tomorrow?
Flying to Chicago.
Oh, yeah. You're home, Chicago.
Yeah.
I'm also flying. I'm going to Orlando to meet the family. Mark, you're flying as well, aren't you?
Flying to San Diego for keynote workshops, all that stuff. Help people become experts like us on TV.
Very cool. No one here cares about climate change, then I take us all jumping on flights tomorrow. Paul Cox, what are you doing tomorrow?
I shall be going back down south tomorrow afternoon, and I shall be playing golf.
Yeah.
I really need to get into golf. I still haven't
Ben,
really
I'll
played,
take you.
so I need to do it. Stephen, what are you doing?
Ben, you're too young. Tomorrow we've got a work day at my local non-league football club, so I shall be doing some weeding and some painting, but that will only be after I've had a decent kip in the morning.
Oh, what's your club?
Hanwell Town FC.
Oh, nice. Yeah, my local team, Worthing, we just got promoted to the National League, so the highest they've ever been.
Yeah. We're step 3, so we look up at you with envy.
Yeah, good. As it should be. I hope everybody looks up at me in envy. Arsenal beat City today as well, 3-0. So
3-0,
get in there, we're going to win the league again.
25 seconds, the first goal, I think.
Yeah, Calaflori! Right, anyway, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate your company tonight. Appreciate you being on the show as always. And viewers and listeners, thank you as well. I'll see you sometime next week. Tom Harwood's covering Bev tomorrow from DC, so enjoy that. And have a great week. Love you, appreciate you. Sweet dreams. Good night. Bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Certainly more changeable week of weather on the way out there this week. It's quite wet in some northern areas today. Southern areas will hold on to some sunshine for at least a while, but it will be turning more humid for all of us. So out there this morning, a few showers in the south and the southwest of England in particular. But for many parts of England and Wales and north east Scotland, it will be a largely dry day. The best of the sunshine by this afternoon probably for parts of Wales, central, southern and southwestern parts of the UK. Turning quite wet though for Northern Ireland and western Scotland. The odd heavier burst of rain pushing in here through the afternoon. Quite a humid feel wherever you are out there this afternoon, and highs in the south 26 to 28 degrees Celsius, so another very warm day, particularly in the sunnier areas. Now out across northeastern parts of Scotland, it will be a lot fresher here, quite a cool feeling day with temperatures a little bit below average for August, but actually there'll be plenty of sunny spells out there on Monday afternoon for Shetland and Orkney. Turning increasingly wet though for western Scotland, the central belt, as we head towards the rush hour. And for Northern Ireland, some heavy bursts of rain pushing in here as well, particularly through this evening. Mostly dry at this point across Wales and southern parts of England, so plenty of evening sunshine here. Just a small chance of a shower for southeastern England for a time. Now through the course of tonight, the rain spreads its way northeastwards across Scotland and also southwards across England. So quite a wet night to come for many parts of the UK. The rain in the south quite showery, but several millimetres of rain possible in a few spots. So some welcome rain for the gardeners and the farmers. Look at these temperatures though, 15 to 18 degrees Celsius overnight, so quite a warm and humid start to Tuesday. Bit of uncertainty as to how quickly the rain clears away from southern England on Tuesday morning. It might just hang back a little bit longer than the graphics suggest at this stage. Northeastern Scotland